Chapter 91. Xue Qing's devil aura made her retract her arrogance and be cautious. What she couldn't believe was that Nan Wei, who had always been arrogant, half knelt in front of a young man. Cultivators usually just cupped their fists in greeting. Nan Wei's kneeling was a form of acknowledgement from the master and servant. Nan Wei greets young master. Nan Wei's eyes were blazing. Young master. Qin, you seem to have understood something. So this skinny kid was Nan Wei's master. Her eyes were sizing up Ning Fan's from head to toe. She couldn't understand how Ning Fan's skinny physique was able to block Xue Qing's gold core spirit sense and how Nan Wei was willing to serve him wholeheartedly. But when her eyes fell on the jade token on Ning Fan's waist, her pretty face turned pale. She instantly understood Ning Fan's identity. She didn't know what young master was, but she knew that the young man in front of her was the elder of Dual Cultivation Palace. He's Ning Fan. Ah, no, I mean, Elder Ning. The reverence in Qin Yu's eyes wasn't fake. Given her conceited character, she rarely feared anyone. In fact, Qin Yu cultivated a secret technique that only the direct descendants of Qin clan in Western Yu country could cultivate. When she secretly used this technique on Ning Fan, she was afraid of him to death. Bloodthirst technique. This technique could increase one's cultivation base by killing people, but it had a huge drawback and was extremely difficult to cultivate. However, this technique was extremely mysterious. The cultivator of this technique could see how many people a person had killed in their life by observing the blood qi on their soul. In Qin Yu's eyes, although Xue Qing had a strong cultivation base and a bad temper, the blood qi on his body was at most hundreds of thousands of people. He wasn't a homicidal maniac. However, Ning Fan looked gentle and humble, but the blood qi on his soul was hundreds of times more than Xue Qing's. Ning Fan's hands were full of blood debts. He had overturned the Heaven Separation sect and swept across the demon sinister forest. He had taken the lives of nearly 100,000 people, and all of them were cultivators. Moreover, there were 1,000 balls of blood qi that emitted an ominous light. Without a doubt, Ning Fan had killed 1,000 people who were comparable to gold core experts. One couldn't tell how ruthless Ning Fan was from his appearance. Ning Fan didn't care about Qin Yu's fear. The only thing that bothered him was Xue Qing's excessive respect. What made him sigh was that Nan Wei's attitude towards him was also too respectful. With a flick of his sleeve, a gust of wind rose from his sleeve and lifted Nan Wei up. Ning Fan shook his head and sighed. Compared to the respectful Nan Wei, he preferred the Nan Wei who dragged him around to look at beauties during the Dao fruit auction. The increase in strength was bound to bring about a change in identity. He gained a subordinate, but lost a friend. Young master, Nan's young master can call me Nan. Good Nan Wei, looking at your cultivation, it seems like you have reached the peak of the vein opening realm, not far from the harmonious spirit realm. This profound spirit Dan is for you. Go into seclusion once and break through to the harmonious spirit realm shouldn't be hard. N said. Fan and took out AA Dan and said. The profound spirit Dan was merely a second revolution Dan. Its ingredients were not precious, but its effect was heaven-defying. It could allow a peak vein opening cultivator to break through to the harmonious spirit realm with 100% success rate. However, there were very few people who could refine this pill, because in order to refine this pill, one needed to master a special alchemy technique. Fire and water coexist. No one in Yu country knew how to refine pills. Even in the entire Rain Immortal world, only a few people knew how to refine pills. At the very least, Xue Qing wouldn't. He looked at the pill bottle that contained the profound spirit pill, almost wanting to immediately snatch it and analyze it. But after thinking about it, he decided to forget about it. This was the pill that Ning Fan had given to Nan Wei. Out of respect for Ning Fan, Nan Wei would not snatch it from him. Nan Wei had never thought that the young lord would bestow such a precious pill to him without hesitation. At this moment, his heart was filled with even more respect and gratitude towards Ning Fan. Thank you for the medicine, young master. Yes. Ning Fan nodded his head lightly. He seemed to have thought of something and added, "Oh right, I will be concocting pills in the Dan Palace for half a month. After half a month, I think you will have successfully broken through to the harmonious spirit realm. Come to the Dan Palace and wait for me. I have something for you to do." The thing that Ning Fan wanted Nan Wei to do was naturally to send the finished pills back to Ning City. Because of the Bone Sovereign, he wasn't willing to return to Ning City at this time, in case the missing Bone Sovereign pointed the spearhead at Ji He and the others. Naturally, Nan Wei agreed to Ning Fan's request. After Ning Fan entered the Dan Palace, Xue Qing's indifferent face squeezed out a stiff smile for the first time at Nan Wei. Little friend seems to have a good relationship with Elder Ning. Senior can just call me Nan Wei. Junior doesn't deserve the title of little friend. Nan Wei was at a loss of how to respond to Xue Qing's sudden change of attitude. He, little friend seems to be here to concoct pills. Come in. This old man will open a primary concoction room for you. Xue Qing's change of attitude was only directed at Nan Wei. The other inner sect disciples who wanted to concoct pills still couldn't enter the Dan Palace. They cast envious eyes at Nan Wei because even fools could see that the reason why Xue Qing was so polite to Nan Wei was because of Ning Fan. This Nan Wei is really lucky to have a relationship with Elder Ning. Ning Fan got what he wanted this time. He was given a high-grade concoction room which allowed him to concoct pills using the third-grade earth fire. This time, he planned to stay in the concoction room for half a month to concoct all the third revolution pills he needed. Xue Qing's respect had caught Ning Fan's attention. According to Xue Qing's character, he would only show respect to a Grand Master alchemist. Could it be that Xue Qing had seen through my true concoction technique? No, I haven't exposed my concoction technique in front of him. He shouldn't know about it, but if he knows that I'm a fourth revolution pill master, will there be some changes in his plan? Something out of the ordinary must be a demon. Ning Fan looked at the deep green earth fire and pondered for a long time before sweeping away the worries in his heart. If Xue Qing really had any conspiracy, he wouldn't be afraid of him. Compared to Bone Sovereign, Xue Qing wasn't a threat at all. He patted his storage pouch and took out the Dan fragmentation cauldron. Then, he flicked his sleeve and took out several stalks of 500-year-old and 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. As Ning Fan's magical power increased, he was able to control the Dan fragmentation cauldron with ease. Only gold core old monsters could control a high-grade magical treasure with their vast magical power. Ning Fan's magical power had already reached the basic requirement to use it. Stalks of spiritual herbs were thrown into the cauldron. Wisps of medicinal qi spread out in all directions. A third-grade earth fire could even incinerate a gold core old monster if one wasn't careful. But in Ning Fan's hand, a trace of black flame had completely subdued the earth fire. In the concoction room, Ning Fan went into seclusion for half a month. For half a month, Xue Qing stood outside the concoction room like a clay statue, guarding Ning Fan. From time to time, he would extend his nose and sniff the air. Each time, he would show a different look of surprise and delight. Third revolution pill, dragon saliva pill. Hiss. This is a peak third revolution pill, violet golden pill. N? What kind of medicinal fragrance is this? It seems to be a third revolution pill. I reckon that it's a pill used to protect the meridians. Oh. This is flesh-growing pill. This pill seems to be used to nourish a woman's body. TSK, this Elder Ning is really a playboy. I wonder what this pill will do. Impossible. I can't be wrong about this smell. Thunder pill. This old man has only seen this pill in an ancient remnant scroll. And, this is. One had to admit that Xue Qing's sense of smell was heaven-defying. He was able to infer Ning Fan's concoction process just from a trace of formation and an insignificant pill fragrance. His heart was more certain that Ning Fan was a fourth revolution pill master. This time, he had at least 90% confidence. Because no other third revolution pill master had Ning Fan's speed and exquisite technique. Even the fourth revolution pill master that Xue Qing had met before couldn't compare to Ning Fan in terms of speed and success rate. As for Xue Qing, he had more things to think about. If Ning Fan was really a fourth revolution pill master, would he be the same person as the rumored Black Devil Ning? A fourth revolution pill master was even rarer than a nascent soul expert. It was impossible for two fourth revolution pill masters to appear in Yu country at the same time. Moreover, it was such a coincidence that they were a grandfather and a grandson. If that was the case, then Ning Fan had deceived the entire country with a lame lie. Although the lie was lame, compared to a 17-year-old fourth revolution pill master, most of the people were willing to believe that there was a Black Devil Ning in this world. Qin Yu could see that Ning Fan had killed people like cutting grass, but Xue Qing could see Ning Fan's true concoction technique. From this, one could tell that no one in the cultivation world could be underestimated. Even if one was cautious, there was no guarantee that the secret wouldn't be leaked. Fortunately, Xue Qing wasn't interested in Ning Fan's true identity. What he was concerned about was where Ning Fan learned his pill refinement techniques from. While Xue Qing was waiting bitterly, a formation light flashed. After half a month of silence, the stone door of the concoction room opened with a loud bang. Ning Fan walked out of the concoction room, bathed in a rich medicinal fragrance. Half a month of continuous concoction had made him extremely tired, but his magical power had improved a little because of the consumption of the concoction. Therefore, his aura had become more stable. Ning Fan cupped his fists at Xue Qing. When he was about to leave, Xue Qing pulled his sleeve. Elder Ning is a fourth revolution pill master. Xue Qing transmitted his voice to Ning Fan. So what if I am? So what if I'm not? Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. Was this Xue Qing finally going to reveal his intention? However, he didn't know whether it was a good or bad intention. If Elder Ning is a fourth revolution pill master, then this old man has 3 benefits to give to Elder Ning. Oh. What are the 3 benefits? I'd like to hear the details. Ning Fan's eyes relaxed a little. It seemed like this Xue Qing didn't have any hostility towards him. However, Ning Fan still couldn't figure out what Xue Qing was planning to do to him. The first benefit is far away, but it's right in front of your eyes. If Elder Ning is a fourth revolution pill master, then this old man is willing to be your cauldron boy. This old man is an intermediate third revolution pill master, an early gold core expert. Isn't it a benefit to be willing to be Elder Ning's cauldron boy? Oh. Elder Xue really knows how to joke. You are a dignified senior. How can you be my cauldron boy? Not to mention that I'm not a fourth revolution pill master. Even if I am, I don't think it's an advantage for Elder to be my cauldron boy. Look at the cauldron. What Elder wants to see isn't the cauldron fire, but my concoction technique. Ning Fan revealed a faint smile. His words had exposed Xue Qing's intention. It turned out that Xue Qing was coveting his concoction technique. Being a cauldron boy can't move Elder Ning? AI, forget it. In order to learn concoction technique, this old man will go all out. If Elder Ning is really a fourth revolution pill master, Xue Qing, am willing to be Elder Ning's disciple. I will let Elder Ning plant a restrictive spell on me to control my life and death. Cough, cough, cough. This time, Ning Fan was choked by Xue Qing's words. Although he was a schemer, he never expected that Xue Qing would be willing to be his disciple in order to learn concoction technique from him. This Xue Qing seemed to be very reckless in doing things. Ning Fan didn't care whether he accepted a disciple or not. However, he would be able to obtain an early gold core helper for free. Moreover, the helper was a third revolution Dan master. What he cared more about were the 3 benefits that Xue Qing mentioned. The first benefit was that Xue Qing had sold himself to Ning Fan. he didn't know what the other two benefits were. In any case, it would be a waste not to accept the benefits that were delivered to his doorstep. Master seems to be very interested in the first benefit. That's good, that's good. Xue Qing had already called Ning Fan his master, as if he was afraid that Ning Fan would go back on his words. After all, Ning Fan was the only fourth revolution pill master in Yu country. If Xue Qing missed out on Ning Fan, he wouldn't be able to find a second master to improve his concoction technique for the rest of his life. He was too passionate about concoction, just like how Elder Meng Chu was passionate about the Tao of tea. The second benefit, disciple had obtained an ancient remnant scroll by chance a few hundred years ago. It recorded the ancient concoction technique and even mentioned some methods to advance to fifth revolution pill master. If master is really a fourth revolution pill master, you will surely be interested in this benefit. What? The method to break through to the fifth revolution pill master. This time, even Ning Fan found it hard to remain calm and collected. Ever since he obtained the inheritance of ancient chaos, he could only reach the fourth revolution pill master. There seemed to be a barrier that he couldn't break through to the fifth revolution. It would be a lie if he said that he didn't want to break through to the fifth revolution pill master. Without pills, Ning Fan wouldn't be able to break through to the peak of harmonious spirit realm in such a short period of time. He didn't expect Xue Qing to offer him a pillow when he wanted to sleep. Not only did he sell himself to Ning Fan, but he also gave him the method to break through to the fifth revolution pill refinement realm. It might not be a bad thing to accept this disciple. After all, this Xue Qing knows how to be filial to his master. What Ning Fan cared about was the third benefit that Xue Qing gave him. The first benefit was that Xue Qing sold himself. The second benefit was that Xue Qing gave him the method to break through to the fifth revolution pill master. What good thing would he give him for the third benefit? The third benefit is a pill. No, it's not accurate to call it a pill. To be precise, it's a pill devil. Xue Qing's words came to an end, but for the first time, Ning Fan's expression changed. Is it really a pill devil? Absolutely. Ning Fan couldn't help but be moved. A pill devil was a high-grade pill. Due to the passage of time, it had developed spiritual wisdom and turned into a demon. The conditions for a pill to become a pill devil were extremely harsh. The most important condition was that the pill must at least reach the fifth revolution pill. Xue Qing actually wanted to give Ning Fan a pill that was above the fifth revolution. The only thing that concerned Ning Fan was that he didn't know what cultivation realm the pill devil had reached. If it was beyond the gold core realm, Ning Fan wouldn't take it even if it was extremely precious. Chapter 92. In the inner hall of the pill palace, Xue Qing raised his old face and closed his eyes. He allowed Ning Fan to plant a mental seal on him, leaving his life in Ning Fan's hands. Xue Qing understood that he had found out the secret of Ning Fan's fourth revolution Dan refinement technique. He had even guessed Ning Fan's identity as Black Devil Ning. Among demonic cultivators, prying into the secrets of others was a great taboo. Therefore, he consciously handed over his life and willingly became Ning Fan's eldest disciple. He, Xue Qing, could be considered a reputable figure in the Yu kingdom. Was it a loss for him to become a young disciple? It was not a loss. In just a short period of contact, Xue Qing could see that Ning Fan was not only easygoing but also extremely generous to his subordinates. For example, against Nan Wei, the first thing he did was to use the Yu country's peerless medicinal pill, the profound spirit pill. This kid might be ruthless to his enemies, but he was never stingy to his own people. Xue Qing had lived for several hundred years and had seen countless people. He believed that he didn't misjudge Ning Fan. He also believed that the old monster was very satisfied with Ning Fan's character. Giving his life to Ning Fan might seem dangerous, but after some analysis, as long as he doesn't offend Ning Fan too much, he wouldn't be in any danger at all. As for himself, he would be able to obtain Ning Fan's wholehearted pill concoction techniques and break through to the fourth revolution or even the fifth revolution. Yes, Xue Qing was extremely ambitious when it came to the Tao of alchemy. He hoped to reach the pinnacle of the Tao of alchemy. Therefore, he risked universal condemnation and opened the lid of the cauldron to observe the formation of the medicinal pill with his naked eyes. This was extremely dangerous. The energy used to refine pills was extremely violent. If one was not careful, they would definitely go blind. But Xue Qing was someone who was so obsessed with alchemy. In order to improve his own alchemy skills, he had to improve his master's alchemy skills first. Therefore, he obediently handed over an ancient pill scroll that he had kept for many years and provided a clue about a pill devil. What? The profound Yin Qi is in the Dark Sparrow's grave, and there is a pill devil there. Reporting to Master, there is indeed such a thing. I saw it with my own eyes. I'm afraid that other than me, even the sect master might not know about it. Then why did you tell me? You are my master. Ha, if you kill that Dan devil and obtain that medicinal pill, you will definitely give your disciple some soup to drink. Master, I think highly of you. Xue Qing laughed without any conscience. Ning Fan held a tattered ancient scroll with a green cover and asked Xue Qing about pill devil Xue Qing. The ancient scroll seemed to be left behind by an ancient 5th Revolution pill master. It recorded many kinds of ancient pills. Other than those that Ning Fan knew, there was also a 4th Revolution pill for fiend god body refinement, yellow turban pill. According to legend, this pill was used by the ancient celestial court to raise yellow turban strongmen. It was a secret medicine. At the very least, ancient chaos didn't know the prescription. It was really a stroke of luck for Ning Fan to be able to obtain this prescription by chance. Although the yellow turban pill was far inferior to the jade royal pill, it was still considered a precious medicine. If he could successfully concoct it, Ning Fan was confident that even if he didn't take the 4th Jade Royal Dan, he could still break through the Silver Light Body Refinement realm and reach the true Silver Bone realm. At that time, he would be able to fight against nascent soul experts with just his physical strength. The only pity was that the main ingredient of the yellow turban pill was missing an extinct spirit medicine, the fire maple fruit. This fruit seemed to have appeared in Yu country before, but it had disappeared once again. Ning Fan did not know that the Ning city he occupied was originally the place where the fire maple fruits grew. He put aside the matter of the yellow turban pill and thought about another matter. Pill devil. Xue Qing told Ning Fan that there was a pill devil in Sinister Sparrow's sect who could transform into a human form. According to Xue Qing, the pill devil could kill a gold core old monster with a single punch. The pill devil was located in the first secret place of Sinister Sparrow's sect, the Dark Sparrow's grave. According to legend, a dark sparrow had fallen in the Dark Sparrow Valley where Sinister Sparrow's sect was located. In the memory of ancient chaos, the Dark Sparrow seemed to be a true spirit that was comparable to a true immortal. The strong ones were even comparable to true dragons and true phoenixes. The old ancestor of the Four Heavens immortal world, Kei Shensi, seemed to have chosen this place to establish his sect because of the remains of the Dark Sparrow. There was a Dark Sparrow's grave 100,000 zhang under the Dark Sparrow Valley. It had 9 floors. The Dark Sparrow's grave was filled with Yin Qi. It could double the cultivation speed of evil techniques. It could be said that the reason why the entire Sinister Sparrow sect was shrouded by Yin Qi and dense spiritual Qi had nothing to do with the earth vein. It was all because of the true spirit Dark Sparrow buried here. The remains of the Dark Sparrow were sealed in the 9th floor of the underground. There was a true immortal level seal planted by Kei Shensi. There were void fragmentation old monsters from Rain Immortal World who wanted to seize the bones, but most of them couldn't even enter the 7th floor, let alone seize the bones. As for the profound Yin Qi that Ning Fan had been longing for, it was hidden in the 5th floor of the Dark Sparrow's grave. It seemed to be hidden so well that even void fragmentation old monsters couldn't find it. Dark Sparrow's grave was only accessible to a few of the higher-ups of Sinister Sparrow sect. The first condition to enter was to swear the great oath of Heart Devil. Never betray Sinister Sparrow sect. Never reveal the secret of Dark Sparrow's grave to outsiders. As for the Pill Devil, it had only appeared in recent decades. The outside world didn't know about it at all. Only Xue Qing saw it. He still remembered that night when he entered the third floor of Dark Sparrow's grave alone. The air in that place was exceptionally cold and gloomy, making me feel extremely uncomfortable. I was in seclusion under a withered old tree. Beside me were skeletons who had been dead for God knows how many years. The surroundings were dark and there was a stench of rotting vegetation. Suddenly, a cold wind blew past. Rustling footsteps could be heard in the darkness. The footsteps were very light. It seemed to be a woman. There was a very fragrant smell coming from her body. It smelled like a fifth revolution pill. I rejoiced and suddenly turned around. Guess what I saw? Xue Qing tried his best to describe the incident that night in an extremely terrifying manner. However, Ning Fan was still expressionless like a zombie. You saw the Pill Devil? Ning Fan said seriously. I'll continue. Xue Qing choked. Why is this Ning Fan more rigid than this old man? He doesn't know how to joke. As soon as I turned around, a woman's face full of blood approached me from behind. She revealed her white teeth and gave me a strange sneer. She didn't have any feet. Without feet, how did she walk? Xue Qing wanted to tell more ghost stories, but unfortunately, he was interrupted by Ning Fan at this point. She flew, which means that her magical power is at least at the harmonious spirit realm. You also said that her strength is strong enough to destroy a gold core with a single punch. This Pill Devil isn't simple. With my current strength, it won't be easy to take her down. But if she's a woman, forget it. The Pill Devil has the body of a pill. It only has the shape of a woman. Without a woman's body, the yin-plucking finger might not be effective. Ning Fan pondered for a moment and continued. Moreover, the Pill Devil is very powerful. But you didn't die when you saw her. This shows that the Pill Devil isn't someone who is easy to kill. She let you go, but you still tried to seize her pill body. You are a little immoral. Ning Fan's words carried a trace of reproach. Xue Qing felt ashamed when he heard it. Although devil cultivators were ruthless and unscrupulous, the key to reaching the pinnacle of devil cultivation was the Tao of Devils. At least, repaying kindness with enmity was more shameful than being a thief among devil cultivators. However, it was understandable that Xue Qing was greedy for the Pill Devil. After all, the Pill Devil was most likely a fifth revolution pill. Master will handle the Pill Devil as you see fit. This disciple won't interrupt. Xue Qing smiled. For the first time, a trace of respect rose in his heart for Ning Fan. This respect had nothing to do with cultivation base. It was just his personality. To be honest, Ning Fan's reputation wasn't good. Because of his dual cultivation method, many people in the sect were pointing fingers at him. However, due to Ning Fan's tyrannical reputation, no one dared to offend him. But today, Xue Qing found out that Ning Fan was a devil cultivator with principles. He might be ruthless in killing people and plucking the women in the world, but he had his own principles: never kill a benefactor. Xue Qing asked himself. If the other old monsters in the cultivation world knew about the Pill Devil, they would definitely flock to this place. Whether it was kindness or enmity, nothing was more practical than a fifth revolution pill. Ning Fan's heart was much firmer than those old monsters. Forget it. Don't talk nonsense about this matter. It's just a fifth revolution pill. Master will concoct one for you sooner or later. What's the fuss? What? Master is willing to give me a fifth revolution pill. Xue Qing's eyes shone like a hungry wolf. Even though it was just an empty promise, Xue Qing knew that Ning Fan was a man of principle. He would certainly keep his words. As long as Ning Fan broke through to the fifth revolution pill master realm, he would definitely give him a fifth revolution pill. If he obtained a fifth revolution pill, he would definitely not eat it. He would keep it as a family treasure and study it carefully for generations to come. It was the right choice to acknowledge Ning Fan as his master. Ning Fan was really generous to him. Although it was just an empty promise, but you will have to provide the medicinal ingredients for the fifth revolution pill yourself. Alright, let's go to the outer hall. I guess Nan Wei is already waiting for me. Ning Fan teased and took the lead to leave, leaving Xue Qing behind. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fifth revolution pill. I have to gather the medicinal ingredients myself, but to concoct a fifth revolution pill, I need at least 5,000 years old spiritual herbs. I can't even get a single stalk even if I sell myself. I'll try to please Ning Fan again. I'll just let him use the medicinal ingredients to concoct the pills. He's a fourth revolution pill master after all. When he breaks through to the fifth revolution, he won't lack money. Chapter 93. In the outer hall of the Dan Palace, Nan Wei had been waiting for a long time. In fact, he had broken through to the harmonious spirit realm in just 9 days after taking the profound spirit pill. This news had caused quite a stir in Sinister Sparrow's sect. At this moment, Nan Wei was still wearing a green robe, sitting on a rattan chair, but his bearing was calm, much more like his father's style. After breaking through to the harmonious spirit realm, his heart was filled with the heroic spirit of a young man. Now, he was considered as one of the top experts in Sinister Sparrow's sect. He really wanted to know how big the gap was between him and the young lord, the #1 expert under the Gold Core realm. After waiting bitterly, Ning Fan and Xue Qing finally walked out of the inner hall. The moment Ning Fan appeared, Nan Wei's eyes lit up. He slightly released his qi, trying to compete with Ning Fan. But immediately, his qi was disintegrated by Ning Fan's invisible qi. In just one exchange, all of his confidence had turned into a bitter smile. I'm not as good as the young lord. Nan Wei put away all his thoughts and stood up to greet Ning Fan. Nan Wei greets the young lord. Thank you for the gift of medicine. Ning Fan naturally felt Nan Wei's probing, but he didn't care. On the contrary, he was very satisfied with Nan Wei's calm harmonious spirit qi. Oh. You have broken through to the harmonious spirit realm? Not bad. Your qi is very calm, without the emptiness of taking the pills. It seems like you have been diligent in your cultivation. Very good. If so, I will entrust you with a task. Bring this batch of pills and magical treasures back to Ning City and hand them over to your father. Ning Fan waved his hand, took out a snow-white storage pouch and threw it to Nan Wei. Inside the pouch, there were countless pill bottles full of various pills and magical treasures. Outside the pouch, there were several spirit sense forces. The only thing that made Nan Wei feel strange was that there was sword intent in the spirit sense forces. This was the first time he had seen such a thing in his life. In addition, there was a letter in the pouch. In the letter, Nan Gong explained how to distribute the pills and train the 3 divine guards. There was also a systematic plan for the cultivation of the 3rd commander. If it wasn't for the sneak attack of Bone Emperor, Ning Fan would have returned to Ning City personally. But if he left Sinister Sparrow sect under the watchful eyes of Bone Emperor, he would implicate Ning City. Therefore, he ordered Nan Wei to make a trip to deliver the medicine. Nan Wei didn't dare to refuse the young lord's order. He retreated almost immediately. He went to the sect to apply for a departure order and hurried back to Ning City. After Nan Wei left, in the Pill Palace, Xue Qing had an unfinished expression. His eyes were filled with worry. He could smell that the storage pouch that Nan Wei took away contained a terrifying amount of pills. Almost all of them were concocted by Ning Fan in the Dan Palace. The fact that Ning Fan was willing to give so many pills to his subordinates made Xue Qing witness his generosity once again. However, there was one thing that Xue Qing did not understand. Why would he let an early harmonious spirit expert like Nan Wei transport so many pills back to Ning City? One should know that the distance between Sinister Sparrow Sect and Ning City was actually several territories where bandits roamed. Every bandit was a reckless outlaw. Once they knew that Nan Wei had a large amount of pills with him, they would definitely kill him and seize his treasures. The distance between Sinister Sparrow Sect and Ning City was less than 1,000 miles. Why didn't Ning Fan make a trip there personally? Master, isn't it too rash to ask Nan Wei to deliver the medicine to Ning City? Along the way, we'll have to pass through several territories where bandits roam. It's not very peaceful. There are even gold-core old monsters who have changed their surnames to become bandits. The bandits that Xue Qing mentioned were rogue cultivators who specialized in killing others and seizing their treasures. Facing the elusive bandits, a mere Nan Wei was probably not enough to deal with them. Ning Fan didn't explain too much about Xue Qing's worries. He only said indifferently, "Those bandits will die if they have any ideas about my pills." When Ning Fan said those words, there was a smile on his face. However, Xue Qing felt a sharp killing intent that was as sharp as a sword. After all, Ning Fan had planted several sword senses on the storage pouch. After leaving the Pill Palace, Ning Fan returned to the Dual Cultivation Palace and began to adjust his breath to recover the magic power and physical strength that he had consumed in concocting pills for half a month. Consuming pills would cause one's magic power to be weak. However, concocting pills in large quantities could make one's magic power more condensed. There was a principle in concocting pills and consuming pills. The mystery of the Tao of alchemy was boundless and profound. It was difficult to make a breakthrough in concocting pills. Ning Fan used the memory of ancient chaos to reach the 4th revolution pill concoction realm, but he couldn't touch the threshold of the 5th revolution pill concoction realm. It was as if something was missing. On the bed, Ning Fan patted his storage pouch and took out the ancient pill scroll that Xue Qing gave him. He read the experience of the 5th revolution pill master. It mentioned that one needed to comprehend the void spirit intent to concoct a 5th revolution pill. Void spirit intent. I see. It seems like I won't be able to concoct a 5th revolution pill unless I break through to the spirit severing realm. Ning Fan smiled bitterly. The void spirit intent was also known as the divine intent by some cultivators. It was a very abstruse ability that could only be comprehended by spirit-severing realm cultivators who were at the 5th realm of cultivation. Every cultivator had their own hobbies and experiences. For example, if Elder Meng Chu of the Merit Palace had a chance to break through to the spirit-severing realm, he would most likely comprehend the divine intent of tea because he loved drinking tea too much. As for Elder Xue Qing of the Pill Palace, if he was lucky enough to break through to the spirit-severing realm, he would most likely comprehend the divine intent of pills. That was because this guy was obsessed with alchemy. He was so obsessed with it. In short, except for a few cultivators who had great luck, one must reach the spirit-severing realm in order to comprehend the divine intent. Of course, in the memory of ancient chaos, there was a mention of a type of divine intent stone that could bestow a cultivator with the divine intent, but it seemed to have disappeared for many years. Ning Fan's luck wasn't small, but if he wanted to comprehend the divine intent, he would have to cultivate step by step until he reached the spirit-severing realm. As for breaking through to the 5th revolution pill concoction realm, it seemed like he could only wait until he reached the spirit-severing realm. He was truly helpless about this. But cultivation had always been such an unsatisfactory thing. After keeping the ancient pill scroll, Ning Fan held his breath and began to adjust his qi, waiting for the night to come. He was about to enter seclusion, and this seclusion would probably last for half a year. He had promised to treat Lan Mei's illness. Now that he had gotten the pill, it was time to solve Miss Lan Mei's problem. The process of treating that secret place was too erotic, and it wasn't good to let others know. Therefore, Ning Fan decided to wait for the night to come. Unfortunately, before he could adjust his qi for long, a female disciple had reported the news of Ning Fan's return to Bai Lu. Thus, this troublesome woman came again. Humph! Ning Fan! How dare you disappear for half a month? As a cauldron, don't you know that you should appear at the first moment when your master needs to be plucked? There was a trace of resentment in her bright eyes, but there was also a trace of hidden joy. As soon as she saw Ning Fan, she immediately threw herself into his arms, her eyes blurred. Lie down. Sister is going to pluck you. So troublesome. Fine, let's dual cultivate. This way, I can recover my strength faster than meditating. Ning Fan didn't say anything else. He turned around and pressed Bai Lu down. Bai Lu obviously didn't expect Ning Fan's rough action. What surprised her even more was that Ning Fan seemed to be a peak harmonious spirit expert. Her beautiful face changed color, faintly realizing that she was fooled by Ning Fan. This Ning Fan obviously didn't pluck her energy, yet he pretended to be her cauldron, deceiving her and making love with her every night. This was simply shameless. Impossible. I have obviously plucked you, your cultivation should have decreased greatly. Why? Why did you still break through to the peak harmonious spirit realm? She wanted to curse, but her mouth was blocked. She wanted to push Ning Fan away, but along with a stinging pain, her body gradually became soft and weak. All of her dissatisfaction turned into soft moans. Damn it. Ah, don't touch here. Bai Lu's slender snow-white legs were firmly held by Ning Fan's shoulder. After that, there was no more after that. As night fell, Bai Lu, with a happy and sweet smile on her face, once again fell asleep from exhaustion. As for Ning Fan, he felt refreshed, swept away the tiredness of half a month. He changed his clothes and went to the inner sect female palace to treat Lan Mei's illness. Tonight, Ning Fan was still enjoying himself, but other places were glowing with blood. The cultivation world was like this. There was a paradise, but there was also a boundless sea of blood. In a certain cultivation family, Wang Yao appeared in the night, waved his hand, and slaughtered an entire small cultivation family. In the night 100 miles away from Sinister Sparrow sect, a young man named Nan Wei was also fated with the blood. He was 100 miles away from Sinister Sparrow sect, rushing back to Ning City as fast as lightning. But after he was 100 miles away, he faintly felt that he was being followed. Could it be that those who are following me are bandits? Nan Wei's face was extremely ugly. He had heard about the savagery of bandits, but he didn't expect that one day he would be targeted by one of them. But soon, his eyes narrowed, revealing a trace of ruthlessness. I don't know what's the cultivation base of the bandit who is targeting me. If it's an early harmonious spirit, I can kill him. If it's an intermediate harmonious spirit, I can still protect myself, but if it's a late harmonious spirit. No matter what, I, Nan Wei, must complete the young master's task and send the pills back to Ning City, even if it means death. Nan Wei's eyes were resolute. He stepped on the sky without any fear. Along the way, he changed his route many times, but the feeling of being tracked still didn't disappear. When they arrived at a desolate valley, a black shadow suddenly appeared out of nowhere and blocked Nan Wei's path. Nan Wei halted his steps and took out his magical treasure, knowing that he couldn't run away from this battle. Under the waning moon, a silver-robed old man was standing in the sky. Although he was old, his body was extremely tall and sturdy. There were 9 scars on his face, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. A mere early harmonious spirit cultivator actually dares to carry such a large amount of pills on a trip. You are simply courting death. Fine, let me, sword maniac, Shen Shangzi, teach you the principle of, an innocent man will get into trouble because of his wealth. The silver-robed old man let out a cold humph. With the pressure of a peak harmonious spirit cultivator, he pressed down on Nan Wei. Under the pressure, Nan Wei's chi and blood surged, almost falling from the sky. He hastily retreated a few dozen meters, creating a distance between him and the old man. Fortunately, he didn't fall from the cloud, but his figure was extremely miserable. At the same time, he was complaining incessantly in his heart. The one who stopped him wasn't an early, intermediate or even late harmonious spirit cultivator, but a peak harmonious spirit old monster. Sword maniac Xin Shangzi. He never thought that he would be targeted by such a ruthless person. Legend has it that this person was a rogue cultivator, but his sword cultivation was extremely high, and his character was even more ruthless. He had killed or not killed the disciples of sects and clans, and was wanted by countless sections. Facing such a person, Ning Cheng's name couldn't save him, and he couldn't possibly be a match for this sword maniac. It was said that this Xin Shangzi had once escaped from the pursuit of 3 peak harmonious spirit experts with serious injuries, but of the 3 experts who pursued him, 2 died and 1 was injured. The 9 sword scars were left behind at that time. The most taboo thing to do when killing someone for treasures was to leave one's name behind. This was an extremely stupid act, but Xin Shangzi would leave his name behind every time he killed someone. That was because the people he killed were all people he thought he could definitely kill after careful consideration. As long as there was a trace of uncertainty, he wouldn't make a move. For example, when Ning Fan was an intermediate harmonious spirit cultivator, he didn't dare to make a move. Ning Fan gave him an unfathomable feeling, but Nan Wei was too weak. Obviously, he had just broken through to the early harmonious spirit realm. I have 9 strands of sword qi in my body, but I only need 1 sword to kill you. Xin Shangzi looked at Nan Wei with disdain and sneered. He flicked his finger, and a strand of sword qi that he had cultivated for many years came out from his finger with a clear sword cry. Immediately, a 300-meter-long sword light appeared in the sky under the waning moon, glowing with blue flames and slashed at Nan Wei. He would definitely die. Nan Wei's face was filled with despair, but he gritted his teeth and decided to burn his soul to stimulate his magical power. Soul ignition. This technique was passed down by Nan Wei's father, Nan Gong. Once used, unless a true immortal saved him, he would definitely die. By burning his soul, he would never enter the reincarnation cycle, but he could stimulate his magical power and break through a small realm. If that was the case, Nan Wei would temporarily possess the magical power of an intermediate harmonious spirit expert. Perhaps it still wouldn't be enough to defeat Xin Shangzi, but he would have a 30% chance of bringing the pills back to Ning City. After that, he would definitely die and never enter the reincarnation cycle, disappearing from heaven and earth. However, just before Nan Wei decided to ignite his soul, an invisible force of divine sense shot out from his storage bag. It was like a sword qi. Under this spirit sense, the 300-meter-long sword light that was slashing at Nan Wei trembled slightly as if it had encountered something extremely terrifying. In the next moment, it was swept by the spirit sense and exploded into countless blue flames. Impossible. This old man's blue flame sword qi was actually shattered by you. Hateful. Brat, what have you done? Xin Shangzi spurted out a mouthful of blood as his natal sword qi was destroyed. He was enraged by the backlash. But before he could finish his roar, he was swept by the spirit sense of the sword qi. For the first time in his life, the arrogant Xin Shangzi revealed a shocked expression. He had a deep understanding of the Tao of sword and had obtained an inheritance of sword techniques from the sword immortal world by chance. It mentioned the strange divine ability in front of him. No, this is impossible. This is sword sense. Sword sense. Only those who had condensed sword sense in their sea of consciousness could use it. It was too late for Xin Shangzi to regret. He could faintly feel that the spirit sense that shrouded him was indeed sword sense. And this spirit sense was so strong that it could easily kill an early gold core cultivator. Let me go. Arg. After a blood-curdling scream, Xin Shangzi's powerful physical body was slashed into a bloody pulp for no reason. Along with the remaining 8 strands of sword qi, they were all shattered. Shocking. Nan Wei was completely stunned. Even the countless bandits who were hiding in the dark, ready to take a share of the loot after Xin Shangzi killed him, were all stunned. Those with discerning eyes could see that it wasn't Nan Wei who killed Xin Shangzi, but the spirit sense that spread out from Nan Wei's storage pouch. It was common knowledge that spirit sense couldn't kill people, but this spirit sense could actually kill a peak harmonious spirit Shenshang Zi in one round. And it seemed that the spirit sense sword chi could even kill an early gold core cultivator and seriously injure an intermediate gold core cultivator. What kind of expert could have such a terrifying spirit sense? Nascent soul old monster or spirit severing old monster? The bandits who were hiding in the dark looked at Nan Wei's storage pouch with fear. There seemed to be a few more spirit senses on the storage pouch. In other words, Nan Wei could still kill a few more early gold core old monsters. Moreover, even if his spirit sense was used up, it was hard to guarantee that there weren't any other tricks in the storage pouch. Each of the bandits had complicated thoughts. They didn't dare to snatch the huge amount of pills that were passing by them. They were all rogue cultivators and not fools. Whoever rushed in first would definitely end up like Shenshang Zi. Therefore, no one dared to have any ideas about Nan Wei. Forget it. The one who could plant such a spirit sense must be a peerless expert. Even if we snatch the pills, I'm afraid we will be hunted down endlessly. The old monsters above nascent soul old monsters are all very powerful. They can fly thousands of miles away with just a blink. If we are targeted by such an old monster, we will lose no matter how many lives we have. No one dared to have any ideas about Nan Wei anymore. The only thing that puzzled these old monsters was, could there be a nascent soul old monster hidden in Yu country? And, this was hard to say. Who knew if there was a peerless old monster in seclusion deep in the mountains and forests? With Shenshang Zi as an example, Nan Wei rushed back to Ning City without any danger. At this moment, his mood was extremely unsettled. He realized that the strength of the young master was far beyond his understanding. A spirit sense could kill a gold core old monster. Nan Wei sucked in a breath of cold air. This was a technique that was only recorded in legends, but it was actually mastered by the young master. The young master is actually so powerful. I, Nan Wei, am really lucky to be able to serve him as my master. This was the true terror of the sword sense. It could kill the enemy without leaving a trace. Chapter 94. Under the night sky, Ning Fan pushed open the door and left the dual cultivation palace. He didn't know that the sword sense he planted on the storage pouch had shocked countless bandits. He traversed through the valley. Lan Mei resided in the female hall, which seemed to be the residence of all the female disciples besides the dual cultivation hall. To reach the female hall, one must first pass through the deacon hall. Occasionally, there were deacons and disciples who were patrolling the streets. When they saw Ning Fans, they would salute respectfully. Greetings, Elder Ning. And, you may dispense with the formalities. Ning Fan had already gotten used to the identity of an elder. He was indifferent to the reverence of the crowd. This was the world of cultivation, where one's strength determined one's treatment. The leaves of the forest were sparse, and the moonlight shrouded the dark clouds. Ning Fan passed through the deacon hall and went through the bamboo forest behind the hall. But when he went deep into the forest, he suddenly stopped. His eyes turned cold and spat out the starlight sword shadow without hesitation. His eyes were filled with fear as he gazed into the depths of the bamboo forest. Who's here? His face turned serious as if he was facing a formidable enemy. His eyes were filled with extreme alertness that he had only seen in the demon sinister forest. Ning Fan felt that there was a person hiding in the bamboo forest in front of him who could pose a great threat to him. In the sparse forest, a gray-robed young man with an ordinary appearance walked out of the bamboo forest. When he saw Ning Fan, his expression was slightly strange as if he didn't expect to meet Ning Fan on his way back to the Deacon Palace. It's him. Both of them said in their hearts at the same time. Ning Fan had some impression of this gray-robed young man. He was the disciple whose result was only second to him in the demon sinister forest, Wang Yao. Wang Yao was promoted to a deacon disciple with a harmonious spirit cultivation. It wasn't strange for him to appear outside the deacon hall. It seemed like he was worrying too much. However, Wang Yao's blood qi was very strong. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. Inwardly, he was shocked. There was an invisible killing intent and blood qi on Wang Yao's body. It was a deterring feeling that could only be condensed after killing countless people. It was this deterrence that made Ning Fan feel extremely dangerous even before he met Wang Yao. This person is not a harmonious spirit. Almost immediately, Ning Fan confirmed one thing. Wang Yao's cultivation was far above the harmonious spirit realm. Early stage gold core. Ning Fan's expression didn't change, but his heart was secretly surprised. This Wang Yao was actually a gold core expert. Moreover, there was a trace of blood stench on this child's body that was so thick that it couldn't be dispersed. Furthermore, his magic power seemed to have been severely consumed. Could it be that he had gone somewhere to kill people? The killing must have been done outside of Sinister Sparrow's sect. Did this Wang Yao sneak out of Sinister Sparrow's sect? How did he do it? One should know that there was a grand formation in Sinister Sparrow's sect. If he left the sect, someone would be able to sense it. However, what he was more concerned about was that before Wang Yao showed himself, he felt an extreme sense of danger. That sense of danger caused his hair to stand on end and a chill to run down his spine. This kind of threatening feeling was not something that an early gold core expert could give Ning Fans. This Wang Yao's strength isn't just at early gold core, and his purpose of coming to Sinister Sparrow sect shouldn't be simple. Should I investigate his background? Ning Fan was a little hesitant. Based on various clues, he deduced that Wang Yao in front of him couldn't be underestimated. Wang Yao's combat strength might even be above him. Probing this person's background was undoubtedly asking for trouble, and it was even possible that he would lose his life. If it was the previous Ning Fan, he certainly wouldn't poke his nose into other people's business, and he wouldn't care about the life and death of Sinister Sparrow sect. But now, his relationship with Lan Mei was getting more and more unclear. Once he married Lan Mei, Sinister Sparrow sect would become his second home. It didn't seem right to watch Sinister Sparrow sect having a hidden danger. Ning Fan's heart shuddered. He seemed to have made up his mind. His eyes swept across Wang Yao, but no one could tell whether he was happy or angry. When Wang Yao was being stared at by Ning Fan, he immediately put on a look of fear and trepidation. Deacon disciple Wang Yao greets Elder Ning. Is there anything that Elder needs this disciple to do? No need. Go back and have a rest. Yes. Wang Yao saluted respectfully and left. Ning Fan gave Wang Yao a deep look and left as well. But when Ning Fan walked out of the bamboo forest, Wang Yao's eyes shifted. The fear on his face disappeared and was replaced with a sneer. That was close. I didn't expect to meet this Ning Fan after I slaughtered the entire city and exhausted my magical power. As the saying goes, those who walk at night have no good intentions. I'm afraid that this kid is going to do some shady business. If he knows my true identity, I'm afraid that I'll be in danger. Unfortunately, he will never know that I'm Bone's sovereign unless he dies. Soon, I'll regain my intermediate gold core cultivation. It's only a few months before I reach the nascent soul realm. Once I regain my nascent soul realm, not only will I make Ning Fan pay with his life, I'll also flatten the entire Yu country and the entire Rain Immortal world. Wang Yao's sneer carried a trace of domineering aura. His ambition wasn't small. It was rare for a trace of his true soul to leave the demon's sinister forest. No matter what, he wanted to flatten a few countries in the mortal world. He put away his expression and left the bamboo forest, walking towards the Deacon Palace with the footsteps of an ordinary disciple. However, after walking for a few hundred zhang, Wang Yao sensed that Ning Fan had already gone far away. He suddenly leaped forward and turned into an illusory light, ignoring the defensive formation of the Deacon Palace. He flew into the Deacon Palace without even using his waste token. This technique was the same as the small sable. It could ignore the defensive formation of the Spirit Realm Grand Formation. It's him. After Wang Yao left, Ning Fan's figure appeared out of nowhere. His eyes were filled with astonishment. Ning Fan's pretense of leaving was just a cover. After he went far away, he immediately used the false thought art to hide his figure and returned to follow Wang Yao. Ning Fan's false thought art wasn't powerful enough after consuming a piece of spirit refining leaf, but its effect was better than the profound gold spirit equipment. At least, Wang Yao didn't notice Ning Fan's return. Ning Fan couldn't bear to ignore the safety of Sinister Sparrow sect, so he decided to find out more about Wang Yao. Who would have thought that before this investigation even began, he would discover a shocking fact? Wang Yao had mastered the same divine ability as the small Sable and Mei Chen, which allowed him to ignore the spirit realm grand formation. The moment he used this divine ability, a trace of his true chi leaked out. Ning Fan could recognize him even if he turned into ashes. Bone Emperor. I had never thought that Bone Emperor would be hiding under my nose. No wonder Wang Yao's performance was mediocre before, but he suddenly rose to prominence on the last day. It turns out that he was possessed by Bone Emperor's true soul. I wonder how much damage will he suffer if I kill this avatar of Bone Emperor. Cold light flickered in Ning Fan's eyes. He recalled the day when he was sneak attacked by Bone Emperor. If he wasn't careful, he would have died under Bone Emperor's claw. This time, Bone Emperor didn't seem to notice that Ning Fan had discovered his true identity. It seemed like it was his turn to sneak attack Bone Emperor. A bold idea arose in Ning Fan's mind. He would secretly follow Wang Yao when he left Sinister Sparrow sect and kill him when his magical power was exhausted. Then, he would be able to finish him off. Kill. Currently, Wang Yao had devoured countless flesh and blood. Although his magical power was exhausted, it had recovered a little. It wouldn't be easy to kill him. At least, Ning Fan wasn't 100% sure. To kill Bone Emperor, he must have a thorough plan. He must kill him in one strike. Today wasn't the best time. There would be plenty of opportunities in the future. Thanks to my concern for Sinister Sparrow sect, I discovered this big secret. Fine, I'll go find Lan Mei now and repay her kindness. She wouldn't be sleeping now, right? Ning Fan adjusted his expression and left the Deacon Palace with quick steps. The female palace was located in the most tranquil valley in the Dark Sparrow Valley. It was a place with beautiful mountains and clear waters. Between the mountain rocks and mist, there was a cool pond named Bright Moon Pond. Usually, there would be countless girls playing in the pond. But now, it was late at night. There was only one girl in thin blue robe sitting on a green rock, sighing while facing the moonlight. She was wearing a blue robe with her hair tied up high. There was a trace of cold arrogance between her brows. Her cheeks were slightly pale, revealing a trace of hidden bitterness. He won't come. He's a liar. I wonder if he's concocting pills in Dan Palace tonight or fooling around with that little demoness, Bai Lu. Damn it. How am I not as good as Bai Lu? Lan Mei's voice became softer and softer, turning into a bitter smile. Yes, I'm indeed not as good as Bai Lu. She's a healthy woman. I'm not. Lan Mei's hand moved to her lower body, but it wasn't for self-examination. She was just caressing her private part. Without experiencing it, one wouldn't be able to understand the pain. As for humans, they were even more contradictory. They hoped to be understood, but at the same time, they hoped to keep the secret from others. I'm not as good as her, but at least you should come to see me, but I know you won't come, she sighed softly, but her sigh was interrupted by a chuckle. Miss Lan Mei, it's my honor to see you under the moonlight. It was a teasing and indecent sentence, but it was the voice that Lan Mei had been waiting for. Her bright eyes were filled with a trace of embarrassment, but there was also a hint of joy in it. However, when she recalled that Ning Fan had seen her caressing her lower body and even teased her as self-examination, her face blushed all the way to her ears. Bull. Bull. I have never blasphemed myself. Only slutty women would do that. You've really never self-examination? How pitiful. Do you want me to help you? Ning Fan smiled playfully. He didn't know why, but he felt that it was very interesting to tease Lan Mei, even if it was just verbal teasing. Who needs your help? I can do it myself. No, I mean, I've never self-examination. Lan Mei bit her lips with her pearly white teeth. She was annoyed that she had been tricked by Ning Fan. Damn it. Why does this Ning Fan always like to talk about such shameful things in front of women? Moreover, the Bright Moon Pond was a place for women to bathe and play in the water. Naturally, women wouldn't wear any clothes when they were playing in the water. The female palace was a forbidden area of Sinister Sparrow sect. All men were forbidden to enter. And the Bright Moon Pond was the forbidden area of the forbidden area. This Ning Fan was really bold. How dare he come here? Lan Mei's face turned redder as she recalled that Ning Fan had seen her caressing her lower body. Sensing Lan Mei's shyness, Ning Fan stopped teasing her and changed the topic to Moon Breeze. What a good bright moon pond. The white clouds in the half-dock are endless, a pool of bright moon fishing without a trace. If I can be buried in this bright moon pond after I die, it won't be in vain. The poem that Ning Fan recited casually was elegant, refined, open-minded, and extraordinary, which made Lan Mei secretly surprised. She was surprised that the usually frivolous Ning Fan turned out to be a magnanimous person, but how could a plucking evil cultivator be an elegant person? It would be better if Ning Fan didn't cultivate the dual cultivation evil technique. However, Ning Fan didn't have the time to be serious and smiled at Lan Mei. Say, if I'm buried in this pond after I die, will you still come here to bathe? To accompany my corpse to relieve your boredom? Bah! Dream on. You still want to take advantage of me after you die? Don't even think about it. Lan Mei revealed an embarrassed expression. Sure enough, it was Ning Fan. He was indeed Ning Fan. Every 3 sentences, he wouldn't talk about the matters between men and women. But when she thought of Ning Fan's question, she revealed a rare trace of seriousness. If you're buried in this bright moon pond after you die, I will die with you in this pond. Ning Fan's heart shuddered as soon as she said this. There was no longer a trace of teasing in his eyes, it turned into a slight sigh. These words were too sentimental and full of deep meaning. Lan Mei seemed to have fallen in love with him. I won't die. I haven't lived enough. Under the moonlight, Ning Fan's icy light flashed as he flew from the surface of the lake to Lan Mei, revealing a smile that was as gentle as the spring breeze. I won't die. This sentence made Lan Mei feel unprecedentedly relieved. It wasn't a beautiful vow, but a comforting sentence from a young man. You must remember, I won't leave before the purple sandalwood is destroyed. I won't die as long as the heaven doesn't fall. You must remember, beside the bright moon pond, under the dark clouds, white clothes, and black snow, smiling like the fleeting years. The scene quieted down, but what broke the warmth was Ning Fan's teasing again. Let me help you. Don't worry, it won't hurt, and it will be very comfortable. What did you say? Don't tell me it's here. Lan Mei seemed to have heard something terrifying, but her heart was filled with anticipation for the first time. Chapter 96. Lan Mei had a very shameful dream. In the dream, she was naked, cuddling with Ning Fan while he was playing with one of her dirty parts. That kind of feeling was too stimulating, thousands of times better than a woman's self-mutilation. Is this the joy of being a woman? So good. While Lan Mei was unconscious, Ning Fan had already separated her legs and healed her lower body. There were many kinds of stone girls. Lan Mei still had her menstruation, so her body was still normal and just needed to be penetrated. The sword drew blood. Under the nourishment of the muscle rejuvenation Dan, the wound quickly healed. The only flaw was that there was a slight scar at the place where she had been cut. It was pink and tender, but it was a fly in the ointment. Ning Fan took out a Millennium Spirit ginseng and chewed it. Then, he used his tongue to smear the juice on Lan Mei's lower body. Even though she was unconscious, the stimulation was still extraordinary for the inexperienced Lan Mei. From time to time, she would moan, using his mouth. Ning Fan had only treated Ji He this way, and Lan Mei was the second. He would only lower his status to his wife. In his heart, Lan Mei was someone he couldn't bear to part with. If you are buried in the bright moon pond after you die, I will die with you in this pond. Lan Mei's words reverberated in Ning Fan's mind and turned into a sigh. Originally, she was the wife that the old monster had chosen for him, but now, Ning Fan had decided to marry her. Lan Mei slowly woke up from her daze. The first thing she saw was Ning Fan bending his head between her thighs and using his tongue. For a moment, Lan Mei was so shy that she didn't dare to open her eyes. Tonight, her innocence was taken away by Ning Fan. The chastity mark on her arm was still there, but her private part had already been invaded once. Moreover, her jade gate had just been healed when Ning Fan invaded it with his tongue. The clear spring was overflowing, the bedding was wet, and the room was filled with the fragrance of spring. Only then did Lan Mei realize that Ning Fan had already sent her back to her bedroom in the female palace after she fainted. But soon after, Lan Mei discovered something extremely terrible. When Ning Fan was raping her, there was a 12 or 13-year-old maid beside him. She had her hair combed into a bun and was holding a basin and hot water. She was waiting to wash the blood stains on Lan Mei's lower body. That maid was Ku, Lan Mei's personal maid. Stinky Ning Fan, how can you treat my illness? You let Ku watch from the side. Shameless. She didn't dare to open her eyes. If she did, how would she face Ku? Her lower body was being teased by Ning Fan. Although Ning Fan was her fiancé, this was a matter between husband and wife. How could she let this little servant see it? The maidservant, Ku, was still young and didn't know about the matters between men and women. The process of Ning Fan treating Lan Mei's illness was too erotic for this little girl. Her little face was flushed, and her eyes were wide open. She curiously looked at Lan Mei's lower body, and her breathing was a little unnaturally rapid. Fortunately, Ning Fan didn't last for too long. After applying the medicinal liquid, he left Lan Mei's thigh and told Ku, help your young miss clean up. If she wakes up, tell her not to get out of bed for half a month and not to touch water. Ku obeys. Young master. Aren't you going to stay here to accompany Miss? I don't think so. It won't be good if this matter is spread out. Although I don't care about my reputation, little Lan might care about it. Having said that, Ning Fan pushed the door and left. Ku immediately began to clean Lan Mei's lower body. Who allowed you to call me little Lan? Lan Mei felt slightly embarrassed. This was her childhood name. After her mother, no one had ever called her that. The cool feeling from her lower body eased Lan Mei's heart. She was surprised to find that because the meridians in her lower body were unblocked, her cultivation base had broken through to the intermediate harmonious spirit realm. If it wasn't for Ning Fan, perhaps she would have pretended to be proud and lonely for the rest of her life. Ning Fan's appearance not only gave her warmth, but also gave her the happiness that a woman should have. Thank you, she smiled sweetly. In Ku's eyes, this smile was even more shocking than seeing a ghost. Ah, this is the first time Miss smiled so beautifully. After a night, Ning Fan returned to Dual Cultivation Palace and immediately shut himself inside. Lan Mei's illness had been cured. Another matter had been solved before his seclusion. The profound Yin Qi was in the 5th level of Dark Sparrow's tomb. Ning Fan hadn't been to that place yet. He didn't think that he could find the profound Yin Qi that even a void fragmentation old expert couldn't. In that case, it would be better for him to collect the profound Yin Qi in the future. The pills had also been sent back to Ning City. During this period of seclusion, the strength of the 3 black demon armies would increase by leaps and bounds. In that case, there was only one thing left for him to do before his seclusion. Bone Sovereign, cold light flickered in Ning Fan's eyes. He was waiting for Bone's sovereign to leave Sinister Sparrow's sect and go to the outside world to slaughter. At that time, Ning Fan would follow him and kill him. He waved his palm and took out an ancient scroll. It was the wordless heavenly book that he had exchanged before. This wordless heavenly book didn't record anything. It seemed to be useless. The only value it had was the 4 words on the cover. Sending the monarch to death. The killing intent of the 4 words was more than 1,000,000 times stronger than Ning Fan's, but it was restrained to the extreme. Ning Fan's eyes fell on the 4 words on the cover. The killing intent in his heart seemed to have found a place to vent, making him feel exceptionally peaceful. This wordless heavenly book seemed to be useless, but Ning Fan still found a trace of value in it. Restraining his killing intent. He stood up and went to the writing desk on the windowsill. He spread out the xian paper and waved the brush and ink. On the paper, he imitated the handwriting of the wordless heavenly book and wrote 4 words. Sending the monarch to death was crooked like a reptile. Ning Fan's handwriting wasn't good. It was rare for him to be able to recognize a few words when he was poor. After obtaining the memory of ancient chaos, Ning Fan's knowledge had almost reached a terrifying level. However, his handwriting was still extremely ugly. However, he didn't care about the handwriting's beauty or ugliness. He only cared about the charm between the lines. Imitating the style of the author of the heavenly book, it was as if he had written the passage of time on the xian paper. Zither, chess, calligraphy and painting could improve one's state of mind. Ning Fan's heart became more and more tranquil. His state of mind was gradually improving. From the calligraphy, he seemed to have understood something. Killing intent wasn't always better if it was more ostentatious. Sometimes, the concealed killing intent was sharper. Shocking the world with a single brilliant feat soaring to the sky with a single move. Only with restraint could it burst forth. Only by accumulating power could one increase their power. The only regret was that no matter how hard Ning Fan tried, he couldn't imitate the charm of eternity in the 4 words. However, this didn't stop him from condensing his state of mind from the calligraphy. On the first day, Wang Yao didn't leave the deacon hall. It seemed like he had consumed a lot of magical power. On the second day, Wang Yao went out of the deacon hall and returned after greeting a few elders as usual. On the third day, there was still no movement from Wang Yao. Ning Fan wasn't in a hurry. For 3 days, if Wang Yao didn't move, he wouldn't move either. The arrogant Bai Lu didn't come to disturb him. It seemed like it was because of that night when she found out about his true cultivation and the fact that she didn't succeed in plucking him. Bai Lu had been cooped up in her room for a few days and seemed to be in an extremely bad mood. Who asked her to be so conceited that her chastity was cheated by Ning Fan several times. However, she didn't come to kill him, which was out of Ning Fan's expectation. Without anyone disturbing him, Ning Fan waited patiently. After 3 days, he had written a thick stack of xian paper. His killing intent had been restrained. His state of mind had improved a lot compared to 3 days ago. At the same time, his handwriting had become much better. His handwriting was casual and restrained, but there was a sharpness hidden between the lines. He was still sitting on the windowsill with his eyes closed, writing the 4 words casually. Night fell. At a certain moment, Ning Fan suddenly stopped writing. A sharp killing intent like a sword flashed across his eyes. At this moment, a gray-robed teenager turned into a ray of light and escaped from the grand formation of Sinister Sparrow's sect. Wang Yao had made his move. You must die tonight. Ning Fan's killing intent rose in his eyes. The xian paper on the table was blown into a mess by his aura. Under the moonlight, he used Separation Slayer to break the formation light of Sinister Sparrow sect's grand formation. Then, he casted the false thought art to conceal himself and quietly chased after the direction where Wang Yao escaped. That direction seemed to be where the Hu clan of West Yu was. Perhaps, this clan was Wang Yao's target. In the dual cultivation palace, a girl in a light gauze dress was looking at Ning Fan outside the window with a complicated expression. Bai Lu, she no longer said that she wanted to pluck him, and she also no longer said that she wanted to kill him. She hated Ning Fan at first, but after she thought that she had plucked Ning Fan's cultivation base and turned him into a cauldron, her hatred towards Ning Fan lessened. Now, she knew that Ning Fan had lied to her and taken advantage of her. Her heart was in turmoil. She still hated Ning Fan. However, her hatred seemed to be mixed with some other emotions. Her heart was in a mess. This stinky man, I wonder which clan's girl will he go to harm tonight. Forget it. As long as he doesn't touch the sisters of the dual cultivation palace, it has nothing to do with me. Humph, it's better if he dies outside. Bai Lu cursed, but she couldn't help but walk out of her room and into Ning Fan's courtyard. Inside the room, the xian paper was scattered all over the floor. She squatted down and picked up the papers. She tidied them up and placed them on Ning Fan's desk. Looking at the proud handwriting on the papers, her eyes became more complicated. These are beautiful handwriting. The Hu clan of West Yu was located on the Cold Moon Mountain in the western region of Yu country. On this mountain, there was a spirit spring of high quality called the Cold Moon Spring. It was full of vitality. The spirit spring could not only be used for cultivation, but also for refining treasures. It could also be used for concocting pills, growing spiritual plants, brewing spiritual tea and dishes. Bathing in the spirit spring could nourish one's skin and prolong one's life. Using the spirit spring to brew wine could enhance one's cultivation base. This spirit spring had nourished the Hu clan of West Yu, allowing them to support a clan of 1,000 people. The winged cavalry of Hu clan. They were ranked 15th in Yu country. 500 of them were at level 3 vein opening. They were riding on second level vein opening flying beasts that could fly to the sky and attack harmonious spirit cultivators. Their combat strength might not be high, but they could ride strange beasts and fly in the sky. Even harmonious spirit cultivators wouldn't dare to provoke them. Other than Hu Wei, there were also 11 harmonious spirit experts in Hu family. The one with the highest cultivation was the patriarch of the Hu clan, a peak harmonious spirit expert, Hu Fengzi. It was said that Hu Fengzi wasn't far from breaking through to the Gold Core realm. He was even close to touching the bottleneck of the Heart Devil. In the night, a group of Hu clan's cultivators patrolled within 200 li of the Cold Moon Mountain. The so-called patrolling was just to clean up some cats and dogs that stole the water from the Cold Moon Spring. In Yu country, no one would be stupid enough to cause trouble in the Hu clan's territory. But tonight, they were destined to tremble in fear. It was because of a grey-robed young man with a sinister smile appeared in the Hu clan's territory under the cover of the dark clouds. The expressions of the patrolling Hu clan's cultivators changed drastically. The newcomer was undoubtedly a harmonious spirit expert. If a harmonious spirit expert came to the Hu clan with good intentions, he wouldn't come in the middle of the night. His eyes were full of killing intent. He must be here to cause trouble. Quickly release the spirit arrow. On the ground, the leader of the patrolling cultivators, a long-bearded man, had a drastic change of expression. He could tell that the newcomer didn't come with good intentions. He immediately ordered to release the spirit arrow and sound the alarm. A fat cultivator took out a purple jade spirit arrow from his bosom and struck out a magical art. The spirit arrow immediately broke into pieces. A purple light flew out from the jade and shot into the night sky, producing a long cry of an owl. The grey-robed young man didn't seem to have any intention to stop the patrolling cultivators from releasing the spirit arrow. As soon as the spirit arrow was released, the jade palaces within 200 li of the Cold Moon Mountain lit up. Immediately, 3 harmonious spirit old monsters flew up to the sky with magical treasures in their hands. Among the 3 of them, 2 were early harmonious spirit and 1 was intermediate harmonious spirit. When the intermediate harmonious spirit old man saw that the intruder was just a grey-robed young man, he immediately showed a disdainful expression and sneered. "Which kid is it? Why aren't you sleeping in the middle of the night and coming to my Hu clan? What are you plotting? The gray-robed young man could fly in the sky, so he was undoubtedly a harmonious spirit expert. But so what? Even an early gold core expert wouldn't dare to invade the Hu clan. Therefore, the old man didn't put the gray-robed young man in his eyes. His tone was full of disdain. However, the gray-robed youth's sneer didn't diminish. His white teeth looked somewhat terrifying under the moonlight. His body suddenly shone with a white light, and in the darkness of the night, he turned into a 100-foot-tall white-bone giant. A trace of early gold core chi came out from the giant's body, accompanied by a sneer. Today, your Western Hu clan will become the Emperor's blood food. Die! The giant roared angrily. It seemed like he had cast some kind of sound wave magical technique. The 3 harmonious spirit cultivators and the patrolling cultivators were all hit by the sound wave and died without a complete corpse. Gold core old monster. And, what kind of magical technique is this? In the stone chamber at the peak of the cold moon mountain, the ancestor of Hu clan, Hu Fengzi, felt his scalp go numb when he scanned the white skeleton giant with his spirit sense. In his hundreds of years of experience, he had never seen a cultivator that could transform into a giant. The 100-zhang giant seemed to have sensed Hu Fengzi's spirit sense and revealed a mocking expression. Every step of his huge body caused the ground to rumble and quake. He arrived at the foot of the cold moon mountain and punched with a force that seemed to be able to push the mountain and fill the sea. One punch directly smashed the 10,000 zhang tall cold moon mountain into smithereens. The stone chamber was destroyed. Hu Fengzi was seriously injured and sent flying out from the rubble. He was horrified. He realized that the intruder wasn't just a gold core old monster. His combat strength was far beyond gold core. He was even stronger than some late gold core old monsters. How did my Hu clan offend such a ruthless person? Where are the Hu guards? I came late, please forgive me, ancestor. A black-robed young man was holding a long spear and riding an eagle. Behind him were 500 people who were also riding eagles. In the dark of the night, they were like 500 rays of light that soared into the sky. The Hu clan was in chaos. Hu guards vowed to attack with their lives. Formation to kill the devil, we won't retreat until we die. Chapter 97. The Gathering Cloud Formation. This formation was quite famous in the cultivation world. It was the most mysterious formation that could concentrate the attacks of all the guards on the leader of the guards. Seeing that the formation was completed, streaks of cloud light immediately flew out from the bodies of each Hu clan battle guard and entered the body of the black-clothed youth, the commander of the Hu clan battle guards. The youth's chi suddenly rose. In a blink of an eye, his cultivation base had broken through from early harmonious spirit realm to peak harmonious spirit realm. Of course, the breakthrough of chi only lasted for a short moment. The youth's body couldn't withstand such a vast amount of magical power. Therefore, he must use up all of his magical power in one strike. The lightning spear in his hand seemed to be swinging with the force of 10,000 jin. The youth shouted coldly. The lightning spear in his hand turned into a thunderbolt. It was like a bright thunderbolt, piercing through the sky like a meteor. Within the thunderbolt, there was the power of an early gold core expert. Even if you are an early gold core old monster, it's not like our Hu guards gathering cloud formation has never defeated a gold core expert before. Die! In the night sky, the Hu guards were controlling their demonic beasts. They didn't have much magical power left. Their magical power was transferred to the black-robed youth to unleash a gold core attack. Each of the 500 Hu guards looked fiery. The black-robed youth was the leader of the Hu guards. He once used this method to defeat a gold core old monster who offended the Hu family. This white skeleton giant in front of them couldn't withstand a single strike from the leader. However, their expectations were destined to be disappointed. That was because the white bone giant didn't seem to be affected at all by the monstrous power of the lightning. The only expression on his face was a contemptuous sneer. Weak, too weak. The 100-meter-tall giant stretched out a finger and pointed it at the descending lightning bolt. With a backhand grab, it easily crushed the lightning bolt from the gold core's attack. At the same time, the giant didn't seem to have the mood to play a game of cat and mouse. His eyes turned cold and he roared. A substantial sound wave spread from his body to a few li away. Bone Dao technique, Bone Devil sound. Under this devil roar, the bodies of the Hu guards exploded into blood mist without any warning. They didn't even have the chance to scream before they died in a strange way. 500 Hu guards turned into sounds of blood exploding as they perished. The black-robed young man, who was full of confidence before, was immediately lifted up into the sky by a conveyance light. The conveyance light grabbed him by the collar and fled out of the sound wave. The black-robed young man was the direct descendant of the Hu clan, Hu Ming. The person who had saved him was the Hu clan's grand elder, a skinny old man in a monk's robe. This devil is too strong. Ming, quickly go to the Purple Light sect and ask their middle-stage gold core elder to save our Hu clan. When the old man in monk robes faced the sound waves that filled the sky and Hu Wei, who had been massacred in one round, his eyes were filled with horror. Now that his ancestor had been seriously injured by the giant, he had to shoulder the heavy responsibility and protect the Hu clan. The pair of straw sandals on his feet gently stepped on the night sky, emitting a green light. His speed immediately reached a terrifying speed, and in the blink of an eye, he was already several miles away. What a fast escape speed! Even an early-stage gold core old monster could not compare to this. However, the Great Elder was merely an intermediate harmonious spirit expert. This straw sandal was a profound gold spiritual equipment, and its divine ability was godly movement. It can increase the speed of the wearer by 30%. You think you can run away? The white skeleton giant casually took a step forward. The force of this step caused the ground to collapse by 3 feet. With just one step, the giant had crossed several miles and appeared behind the Great Elder and the black-robed young man. Then, it fiercely clawed at them. The Great Elder of Hu clan felt his hair stand on end. The seemingly cumbersome giant actually moved so fast. Without hesitation, he patted his storage pouch, and 13 fiery flying swords flew out. The Great Elder performed an incantation gesture, and the 13 flying swords suddenly turned into 10. A total of 130 fiery flying swords covered the sky and earth, whistling fiercely as they pierced towards the giant's palm. The 13 fiery flying swords were all mid-grade magical treasures, but the Great Elder did not expect these treasures to be able to break the giant's physical defense. What he wanted was just to buy some time for him to escape. But what shocked him was that the 13 flying swords couldn't even stop the giant for a little bit. Before they even touched the giant's palm, they exploded into fiery fragments with a loud bang. As for the giant white skeleton claw, there was no longer a trace of mercy. With a ruthless clench, the Great Elder was squeezed into a lump of meat paste. However, at the moment of certain death, the Great Elder ruthlessly threw away the black-robed young man in his hand, saving him from death. Ming run. Run to Purple Light sect, and never come back. These were the last words of the Great Elder. Cultivation was cold and selfish. It needed to fight and kill to carve out its own path from the limited cultivation resources. However, it wasn't that there wasn't any warmth in cultivation. It was just that the warmth usually came from, the words of a dying man are kind. As for the white skeleton giant, it was obvious that it didn't waver in killing. This was a devil with a heart of iron and stone. This scene caused the remaining cultivators of Hu clan to have a drastic change of expression. As for the remaining harmonious spirit old monsters, they weren't as great as the Great Elder who cared about Hu clan. Some of them chose to stay away from the giant to protect themselves. Some of them were convinced that Hu clan would be annihilated today and wanted to escape. As for the ancestor of Hu clan, Hu Fengzi, a trace of ruthlessness rose in his heart after witnessing the destruction of the Hu guards and the tragic death of the great elder. He then took out a rotten pill from his storage pouch. The decaying corpse pill could increase one's strength by a small realm in a short period of time at the cost of certain death. He was already a peak harmonious spirit expert. If he exchanged his death for a short period of gold core cultivation, he might be able to fight against the giant. With a ruthless look in his eyes, he swallowed the decaying corpse pill and began to refine its medicinal energy. "Give me time, my children. Don't die," he said with tears in his eyes. But without the Hu guards and the harmonious spirit experts, the white skeleton giant was like an unstoppable force. It crushed the formation light with a stomp and crushed the cultivators one by one with a palm. The giant's eyes moved when he saw a few harmonious spirit cultivators trying to escape. His eyes were filled with mockery. "Today, all of you will be my food. No one will be able to escape." Do you know why void fragmentation experts are called void fragmentation experts? The giant waved his palm and clenched the void in front of him. The void within 200 li of Hu clan was shattered. A black shadow that looked like a ring surrounded the Hu clan's cultivators. A few harmonious spirit old experts who couldn't control their speed directly rushed into the dark void crack. They didn't even have the chance to scream before they were shredded into pieces by the void wind. As for those harmonious spirit old experts who were lucky enough to escape into the light, they were already horrified. No, the entire Hu clan was in despair when they saw the void crack. Even Hu Fengzi, who had swallowed the decaying corpse pill, revealed a trace of helplessness when he looked at the white skeleton giant. Because what the white skeleton giant used was a technique that could shatter the void with its palm. Shattering the void was the divine ability of a void fragmentation old expert. This man is void fragmentation. Hee, why did my Hu clan offend such a powerful expert? Huh, why? As for the black-robed young man, Hu Ming, he was clutching his chest and coughing out blood as he fell to the ground. He was only blown by the void wind from a few hundred zhang away, but he was already severely injured. His eyes were filled with shock. This was the first time he had seen a void fragmentation technique, but he didn't feel lucky at all. All he felt was the despair of certain death. All below the void fragmentation realm were ants. Today, who could stop the giant's massacre? Hu clan must be annihilated. Humph. Just admit your death. The white skeleton giant sneered. With rumbling footsteps, the earth trembled as it walked across the sealed Hu clan's territory. Each and every one of the Hu clan's cultivators was shivering with fear as they looked at the giant with frightened eyes. The giant sneered. More than 10 cultivators were killed with a swipe of its claws. Even their flesh and bones were chewed and swallowed by the giant. The scene was extremely bloody. But under the giant's void fragmentation aura and killing intent, none of the Hu clan's cultivators could resist. "No, don't eat anymore, don't." Hu Fengzi, the great elder of Hu clan, let out a hoarse cry. He soared into the sky and rushed towards the giant, trying to risk his life. There was nothing more heart-wrenching than watching helplessly as one's own descendants were eaten alive by a demon. "Fight! This old man will fight you to the death." Hu Fengzi rushed towards the giant, but sadly found that he couldn't even get within 10 zhang of the giant. The closer he got to the giant, the more he was shocked by the giant's void fragmentation aura. "Humph! You're not worthy. Die." The giant sneered and pointed his finger. Under the force of the finger, the old man immediately felt his flesh and blood begin to melt. Hu Fengzi's face was filled with despair. "Death, I'm finally going to die. But it's better this way. Dying under a magical technique is better than being eaten," but at this moment, a flash of killing intent suddenly appeared, shattering the killing intent defense around the giant. A sword shadow that was as bright as the stars moved like lightning. It pierced through the void and pierced through one of the giant's eyes, gouging out one of the giant's eyeballs. After that, the cold voice of a young man was heard. "He's not worthy, but am I?" The voice was young and tender, but it carried a trace of the vicissitudes of life. In the night, it was on par with the giant's aura. That sword shadow carried the soul-burning ability. As soon as it pierced through the giant's eye socket, it burned a large part of the giant's soul that was hidden in his bones. And the finger that crushed Hu Fengzi was forcefully stopped. Hu Fengzi was stunned. "Who's saving me?" "No, I should ask who can save me. Could it be a void fragmentation old monster?" "It must be a void fragmentation old monster." Hu Fengzi forced himself to walk and stopped in the clouds. He looked up and saw a young man in white robes and black cloak in the night sky. The young man removed the false thought art of invisibility and revealed himself. The moment it appeared, countless white bone phantoms appeared around it. It held a sword in its hand, and on the tip of the sword, there was a line of blood that was as bright as a sunset. It was that line of blood sword energy that had injured the giant just now. The shadows of white bones, the red mist of the blood line filled the sky and the strong wind blew. But the young man stood in the wind, his eyes were as calm as a mirror. His murderous intent was kept in his heart after being struck by that strike. Hu Fengzi felt the magical qi emitted by the young man and revealed a look of disappointment. There was also a puzzled look in his eyes. No, not a void fragmentation young man, but a peak harmonious spirit young man. But how could a peak harmonious spirit young man injure a void fragmentation giant with a single strike? This young man looks familiar. Yes, it's him, the newly recruited outstanding disciple of Sinister Sparrow sect, Ning Fan. The giant let out a painful wail after one of his eyes was cut off by Ning Fan. His voice sounded like thunder. Breaking through the void had consumed a lot of his magical power. Now that he was seriously injured by soul burning, he had no choice but to retreat from the giant's avatar. The giant's voice exploded into black mist and a young man in grey robes walked out from the black mist. This young man was Wang Yao, but his hair was white. It seemed that his soul was greatly damaged because of soul burning. His left eye was blood red and filled with rage, while his right eye was empty with black blood flowing out. He took a step forward and fiercely clawed at Ning Fan. Immediately, an unimaginably powerful magical force rampaged in the void of the night. But when this magical force reached Ning Fan, it was like a breeze blowing on a hill. It couldn't hurt Ning Fan at all. The invisible sword sense slashed it into pieces. The giant became even more furious and let out a furious roar. "Ning Fan, Ning Fan, Ning Fan. If I don't kill you, I'm not a human." Chapter 98. 1/1 Eye Destroyed. Ning Fan immediately distanced himself from Wang Yao after he succeeded in his attack and revealed himself. He had been following Wang Yao to this place and had been hiding, waiting for the moment when Wang Yao was careless and exhausted his magical power to strike a killing blow. Ning Fan didn't think that he had underestimated Wang Yao, but it seemed that he had still underestimated him. The ability to shatter the void, the bizarre devil sound explosion technique, the 100 zhang tall bone body. If it wasn't for this sneak attack, his chance of winning against Wang Yao would be less than 30%. Even if the sneak attack succeeded, the chance of winning was only 50%. Wang Yao was very strong. It was the true soul of Bone Emperor, which was completely different from a clone. It could use all kinds of void fragmentation abilities. However, since he was already an enemy, there was no choice but to escape. If he didn't kill him now, it would be impossible to kill him when his cultivation base recovered. Battle intent rose in Ning Fan's eyes. What harm was there in fighting? Unknowingly, the black blood in Wang Yao's right eye stopped flowing, and a heaven-shaking murderous intent caused countless ripples to appear in the sky. He stomped his foot in the sky. Suddenly, thousands of snow-white thunderbolts appeared in the sky. Bone Dao, Bone Devil Thunder. Thunderbolts were the might of the heavens. Even the commander of the Hu guards could only cast out one thunderbolt with the strength of 500 of them. But Wang Yao was the body of bone emperor. Just a magical technique was enough to attract thousands of thunderbolts, each of which was enough to kill a harmonious spirit expert. The remaining cultivators of Hu clan revealed a look of despair under the thunderbolts. With this magical technique, it wouldn't be difficult for Wang Yao to destroy Hu clan with just one move. Hu Fengzi sighed and looked at Ning Fan with a bitter smile. He didn't think that Ning Fan could withstand thousands of thunderbolts and such a powerful magical technique that could kill 1,000 harmonious spirit experts. Although this kid is a genius disciple of Sinister Sparrow's sect and a newly promoted elder, he is still too young. No matter what, he won't be a match for a void fragmentation old monster, but as soon as Hu Fengzi had this thought, he was dumbfounded. Under the thunderbolts, the sky was as bright as day. Ning Fan's face darkened. Without hesitation, he patted his storage pouch. Gold, green, blue, red and yellow sword lights flew out. Each of them carried the sword intent that was enough to kill an early gold core expert. This is 5 peak grade Dharma treasures. No. This is a set of Dharma treasures. When used together, its might is comparable to a top-grade treasure. A jade pendant in his bosom broke into powder with a cracking sound. There was still a red light flickering at the broken part. So dangerous. Ning Fan was slightly startled. The broken jade pendant was naturally the death substitution order. If he wasn't careful enough to prepare the death substitution order, he would have been assassinated by the red light in Wang Yao's eyes. Such a strange technique. It was the same as the sword sense, attacking one sea of consciousness, but it was different from the sword sense. The sword sense was an attack of spirit sense. It was invisible, but this red light was tangible. It was blood red, like lightning and heavenly tribulation. This technique wasn't mentioned in the memories of ancient chaos, but 4 words suddenly emerged in Ning Fan's mind. Void spirit intent. It was highly possible that only experts above the spirit-severing realm could master this attack. Spirit intent was divided into different types of intent. Wang Yao's spirit intent only had one word, kill. Kill until the white bones piled up like a mountain. Kill until the common people were stained with blood. Kill until the earth turned upside down and the sky turned upside down. But Ning Fan didn't have time to think about it because the second red light shot out from Bone Sovereign's left eye. Like a bolt of lightning, it rumbled over. At this moment, Ning Fan no longer held back. Without hesitation, he activated his sword sense and sent out an invisible sword sense to collide with the red light. Boom! This time, Ning Fan didn't have the death substitution order to protect him. He had to use all his strength. If the red light entered his body, he would die for sure. The sword sense carried a trace of immortal execution sword chi, while the red light carried a trace of heavenly tribulation divine intent. The collision of the two resounded through the sky. If Wang Yao didn't seal the 200 li of void, perhaps all the experts within 1,000 li of the void would be alarmed. The cultivators of Hu clan were dumbfounded. The battle in the night sky wasn't something they could intervene in. Even if they stood a little closer to the battle, they would be affected and die a graveless death. Ning Fan's face became paler and his sword sense was heavily damaged. But when he looked at the red lightning in Wang Yao's unbridled eyes, a trace of ruthlessness rose in his heart. So what if you're a void fragmentation expert? So what if you're a bone sovereign? So what if you're a void spirit intent? Slash! His fist landed on his chest, worsening his injury. But when he spurted out a mouthful of blood essence, the power of his sword sense instantly leaped to another level. The sword chi swept across and crushed the red lightning. Wang Yao spurted out a mouthful of blood and the red light in his left eye faded away. Impossible. My extreme realm is the void spirit intent that I comprehended from the heavenly tribulation. I'm almost invincible in the same realm. How could you block my extreme realm? Chapter 99. This divine intent was usually comprehended from the heavenly tribulation and had a strong murderous nature. Those who comprehended the extreme realm were usually invincible among their peers. Because the divine intent imitated the heavenly tribulation, its power was naturally terrifying. Heavenly tribulation. Even the gods and Buddhas would be afraid of it. However, Wang Yao had used the red lightning twice and failed to kill Ning Fan both times. This was beyond his expectation. The first time, Ning Fan relied on the death substitution order to block the red lightning. The death substitution order was extremely precious. It wasn't surprising that it could save his life once. However, he was still able to withstand the red lightning of the extreme realm the second time. He actually relied on his sword sense and sword sense. Wang Yao had never thought that Ning Fan could transform his sea of consciousness and condense the rare sword sense even in the ancient times when he was only at the harmonious spirit realm. However, Wang Yao did not think that even the sword consciousness's sword cognition could match his limitless red thunder. The extreme realm was different from the other void spirit intents. It couldn't pass through magical treasures to attack the opponent's sea of consciousness. Its power was extremely terrifying and could kill countless experts at the same time. In the 7th region of Demon Sinister Forest, Bone Sovereign had used the red lightning to kill several void fragmentation old monsters and defeated the little sable Mei Chen. But today, the red lightning of the extreme realm was broken by Ning Fan, even though it was released by Bone Sovereign's gold core true soul. At the last moment, Ning Fan was ruthless and merciless. He destroyed his own red lightning forcefully with a punch. For the first time, Wang Yao felt a trace of fear towards Ning Fan. Because his strongest magical technique was defeated by Ning Fan. My magical power has been exhausted and my extreme realm has been destroyed. I won't be a match for this kid in a short period of time. I'll escape today. If my true soul is destroyed by this kid, my true body in Demon Sinister Forest will most likely suffer severe injuries or even drop in cultivation realm. Wang Yao's face was still insolent, but he had already made up his mind to escape. However, he believed that it was impossible for him to escape without using some means. He flicked his finger and a finger bone flew out. With a cold shout, that finger bone immediately turned into white bone ghost soldiers. 1 gave birth to 2, 2 gave birth to 4, 4 gave birth to 8. In an instant, there were nearly 1,000 ghost soldiers standing in the sky, wielding sabers and spears while letting out mournful ghost howls. Each and every one of them was a harmonious spirit expert. As soon as the ghost soldier was summoned, it immediately followed Wang Yao's will and attacked Ning Fan's. As for Wang Yao himself, he retreated. He pointed his finger at the crack in the void, and the pitch-black crack immediately began to dissipate. He took the opportunity to escape. Humph! You want to run? Do you think these harmonious spirit ghosts can stop me? Ning Fan's eyes flickered with a cold light. He and Bone Sovereign were irreconcilable enemies. If he let go of a trace of Bone Sovereign's true soul today, he would certainly face greater troubles in the future. He must never let him go. Break! He stepped on an icy rainbow and chased after Bone Sovereign. At the same time, his sword sense swept across the place. Everything under the vast sky was enveloped by his sword chi. Nearly 1,000 harmonious spirit ghosts were killed by Ning Fan's sword sense and exploded one after another. They turned into ashes and vanished like smoke in the wind. As for Ning Fan, he coughed out another mouthful of blood. His injuries had worsened. One style, summoning 1,000 harmonious spirit ghosts. One style, annihilating 1,000 harmonious spirit experts. All the cultivators of Hu clan felt their blood run cold. What they saw tonight was absolutely unforgettable. If Wang Yao and Ning Fan joined hands, they would be able to wipe out all the experts below the Gold Core realm in Yu country. While escaping, Wang Yao sensed that Ning Fan was chasing after him. His face was filled with shock. He summoned 1,000 harmonious spirit ghosts. Although he didn't think that they could kill Ning Fan, they could at least stop him for a while. However, to his surprise, Ning Fan was able to kill 1,000 harmonious spirit realm cultivators in just a few moves with his powerful sword sense. The power of Ning Fan's sword sense wasn't any weaker than the extreme realm of his body. Impossible. Even the sword sense of the ancient cultivators shouldn't have such power. What kind of sword chi did this kid fuse with his sword sense? How could it be so domineering? Wang Yao's voice was very low, but Ning Fan seemed to have heard him and sneered. It's the immortal execution sword chi. What? Impossible. The immortal execution sword chi was used by the ancient heavenly court to kill immortals and Buddhas. How can you control it? Ning Fan's words made Wang Yao's mind confused for the first time. He didn't answer Wang Yao's question out of kindness. He wanted to use the name of immortal execution to scare Wang Yao. Then, he would use his last trump card. Ning Fan patted his storage pouch and took out the Dan fragmentation cauldron. Wang Yao, who was running away, naturally didn't put it in his heart when he saw that it was only an early high-grade magical treasure. But immediately, the Dan fragmentation cauldron flickered with a dim light. Wang Yao's face turned ugly as he was stopped by the dim light. Body-fixing divine ability. Damn it. Why did I have to encounter such a troublesome divine ability when I wanted to retreat? The Dan fragmentation cauldron had the body-fixing divine ability. It might not be able to smash Wang Yao to death, but it could still stop him for a moment. Wang Yao thought that it wouldn't be difficult to break the body-fixing divine ability. But just as he broke free from the body-fixing divine ability, Ning Fan's icy light flashed and was only 10 zhang away from him. At this moment, Ning Fan's hidden killing intent was released for the first time. It went straight to Wang Yao's heart like a raging wave. What level of killing intent is this? Wang Yao's expression changed drastically, but something unexpected happened. He saw Ning Fan patting the top of his head. An illusory incarnation that looked exactly the same as him shot out like a black light. The incarnation's expression was as cold as ice. When it appeared, it was slightly unstable as if it would explode at any time. But there was a trace of half-step nascent soul realm aura on this incarnation. It made Wang Yao shiver in fear. Half-step nascent soul realm incarnation. How is this possible? Ah! He let out a blood-curdling scream as Ning Fan's sense soul incarnation broke through Wang Yao's unparalleled physical defense with a claw. It crushed all the immortal veins in his body and destroyed his cultivation base. But after destroying Wang Yao's physical body, Ning Fan didn't relax at all. Instead, he opened his mouth and spat out a starlight sword shadow towards another hidden place. There was nothing in that place, but after being slashed by the separation slayer, a shrill scream was heard. A soul emerged with an invisible flame burning on top of it. This soul was a trace of Bone Sovereign's true soul that escaped from Wang Yao's body before he died, but it didn't escape Ning Fan's perception. After losing his physical body, a trace of his true soul was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered under the soul-burning divine ability of the separation slayer. For the first time in his life, Bone Sovereign's illusory and painful face begged for mercy. Let this trace of my true soul go. After I unify the Yang world, I will divide the world equally with you. However, Ning Fan only responded with a sneer when he begged for mercy. Do you think I will believe you? The separation slayer fiercely slashed down. And this trace of Bone Sovereign's true soul died with a sky-high resentment. After retrieving the sense soul incarnation in the separation slayer, Ning Fan immediately swallowed a pill to regulate his breathing. Without resting, he immediately returned to Hu Clan. Cold Moon Mountain. From the moment he chased after Bone Sovereign to the moment he killed the trace of Bone Sovereign's true soul, it was only a dozen breaths of time. At this moment, the spatial seal that Bone Sovereign planted in Hu Clan had yet to dissipate completely. As for Ning Fan, he had to deal with Hu Clan before the spatial crack disappeared. After all, he had used too many trump cards to kill the Bone Sovereign. If he were to ignore the Hu Clan, he would be doomed. If he left Hu Clan alone, it would certainly cause a lot of trouble. He could either kill or subdue them. As for how to deal with Hu Clan, he still needed to see what kind of person the old ancestor of Hu Clan was and whether he was worth subduing. Ning Fan immediately turned around and returned to Cold Moon Mountain. Not long after he left, a green-robed middle-aged man with an extraordinary demeanor emerged. His eyes were full of vicissitudes of life and full of emotion. The master of Sinister Sparrow sect, Sinister Sparrow. Initially, I wanted to eliminate this Wang Yao personally, but it seems like I'm no match for him. At least, I couldn't withstand that red lightning. I didn't expect Ning Fan to have hidden his strength so deeply. I just don't know the origin of the void fragmentation expert that he killed. It seemed to be a ghost, most likely an expert of Demon Sinister Forest. AI, what did this kid do in Demon Sinister Forest to attract the pursuit of a void fragmentation expert? Judging from his words, it seemed like Sinister Sparrow had been tracking Wang Yao for a long time and was also preparing to eliminate him tonight. In Demon Sinister Forest, Ning Fan and Wang Yao's results were the strangest. As the master, it was impossible for Sinister Sparrow not to investigate it. As for Ning Fan, it wasn't strange at all. After all, Ning Fan's master was the old devil, a true immortal expert. There were only a few people in Rain Immortal World who knew about him. As a good friend of the old devil, Sinister Sparrow naturally knew about him. Sinister Sparrow didn't suspect Ning Fan, but he suspected Wang Yao. The rise of Wang Yao was too strange. He had visited the Wang family once and found that Wang Yao had always been an ordinary person in the family. He had been following Wang Yao for days and nights and witnessed how Wang Yao annihilated the cultivators of Yu country. He had concluded that Wang Yao had ulterior motives in Sinister Sparrow's sect. Sinister Sparrow was prepared to kill Wang Yao tonight, but it seemed like it would be difficult for him to kill Wang Yao alone. If they fought, there was a 50% chance that he would be killed by Wang Yao's red lightning. Fortunately, Ning Fan had intervened. Otherwise, Sinister Sparrow wouldn't dare to think about it anymore. Initially, I was thinking of helping him to settle the conflict between him and Revered Bai. But now it seems like there's no need to help him. That old bastard Bai Feidong is simply asking for humiliation. Sinister Sparrow smiled faintly. He felt gratified when he thought that Ning Fan was his son-in-law and a disciple of his sect. Old man Han, your eyesight has finally improved for once. This disciple of yours might be able to avenge you. In the 7th region of Demon Sinister Forest, Bone Emperor was in seclusion, recovering a trace of his true soul that had been separated from his body. The damage to the soul was the hardest to heal. Separating a trace of his true soul and sneaking out of Demon Sinister Forest was a huge loss to Bone Sovereign. His cultivation base was at the 5th level of void fragmentation, but because of the separation of his true soul, his cultivation base had almost dropped. However, the thought of separating his true soul would not only allow him to kill that human brat, he might even be able to rampage in the Yang world and cultivate the body of his true soul to the void fragmentation realm. After that, he returned to Demon Sinister Forest. It would be a piece of cake for him to break through to the 6th level of void fragmentation after merging with his true soul. Killing Ning Fan was his main goal, but it wasn't his biggest goal. Bone Sovereign had great ambition. He had always wanted to conquer the Yang world. Ning Fan's appearance was just an opportunity for him. Bone Sovereign was in seclusion. Suddenly, his eyes widened in anger and a mouthful of blood flowed out from his mouth. His divine soul was greatly damaged and his cultivation base dropped rapidly. 4th level of void fragmentation, 3rd level of void fragmentation. He was just a hair's breadth away from falling to the 2nd level of void fragmentation. Damn it! What happened to my true soul? He closed his eyes in anger. The memories of his true soul gradually replayed in his mind. This ability wasn't possessed by his clone. Every scene that fell into Bone Sovereign's eyes turned into sharp killing intent. The one who killed his true soul was the human brat that he had never put in his eyes. Ning Fan, Ning Fan, Ning Fan. One day, when I leave the demon sinister forest, I will definitely tear you into pieces. He roared with immense magical power. His voice spread to the 6th, 5th and 4th region. In fact, he had even heard about it in the 3rd region. Mei Chen, who was trying her best to recover her strength, was lazily lying in the Purple Clan. A figure appeared in her mind from time to time. That figure had teased her countless times, but now, he had already left. Bah! Why am I thinking about him? That heartless bastard has already treated me like this. Why didn't he express his gratitude? She cursed Ning Fan 1,000 times in her mind. But at this moment, she heard Bone Sovereign's roar. Her face lit up. She could sense a trace of instability in Bone Sovereign's voice. Bone Sovereign was severely injured. His cultivation base had dropped. If she were to consume some spiritual herbs to recover her cultivation base and return to the 7th region, she might be able to defeat Bone Sovereign and become the overlord of the 7th region again. Humph! Bone Sovereign, you finally got your retribution. However, it's really hard to imagine who could injure you. Mei Chen laughed heartily, but after hearing Bone Sovereign insulting Ning Fan again and again, she vaguely understood something. Impossible. Could it be that Ning Fan injured Bone Sovereign? How did he do it? And what's his purpose? He seemed to be dealing with Bone Sovereign. Mei Chen's heart was filled with mixed feelings. Then, she had a thought that she thought was absurd. Could it be that Ning Fan dealt with Bone Sovereign because of me? Bah! Bah! Why would he take such a huge risk for me? But what if? Chapter 100. His face was filled with killing intent. Tonight, he had revealed too many of his trump cards when he killed Wang Yao. In order to avoid trouble in the future, eliminating these witnesses was undoubtedly the most convenient thing to do. He slightly released his spirit sense with a trace of murderous intent, engulfing the 200-li radius of the Cold Moon Mountain. Every cultivator of Hu clan was affected by Ning Fan's spirit sense. It was as if Ning Fan only needed a thought to turn the ethereal spirit sense into a sword sense that could take away their lives. Under the pressure of this spirit sense, cultivators below Harmonious Spirit Realm couldn't even stand straight. The remaining Harmonious Spirit cultivators of Hu clan, including the commander of the Hu Guards, Hu Ming, were looking at the young man on the mountain peak with reverence. As for old ancestor Hu Fengzi, he felt Ning Fan's pressure the most. He had temporarily broken through to the Gold Core realm after consuming the decaying corpse pill, but he still felt that his life and death were beyond his control under Ning Fan's spirit sense. This Ning Fan could easily annihilate Hu clan, just like the Void Fragmentation Old Monster. Since Ning Fan had returned and the Void Fragmentation Old Monster was nowhere to be found, it undoubtedly meant that Ning Fan had killed the old monster. Hiss! Slashing the void fragmentation. With this thought, Hu Fengzi's fear towards Ning Fan rose to an unprecedented level. The scenes of Ning Fan's strange means appeared in his mind, making his hair stand on end. He was horrified to realize that Ning Fan wanted to silence them and annihilate Hu clan. Hu Fengzi could understand that any one of Ning Fan's means would be coveted by countless old monsters. If it was Hu Fengzi who exposed his trump card and had the ability to silence them, he naturally wouldn't be merciful. His face was showing signs of life, but his mind was thinking of a way to solve the current crisis. Looking at the cold spring far away and the despair of the cultivators of Hu clan, Hu Fengzi seemed to have made a decision. He dragged his weak body toward the Cold Moon Mountain in a flash of light. He had a calm expression as if he was ready to die. When he was 100 zhang away from the mountain peak, he stopped and cupped his fists at Ning Fan. This old man is the old ancestor of Hu clan, Hu Fengzi. Nice to meet you, Elder Ning. Ning Fan closed his eyes without saying a word. His spirit sense was still locked on Hu Fengzi. If Hu Fengzi made any strange movements, he would die for sure. Elder Ning, can you spare the Hu clan? Hu Fengzi smiled bitterly. I'm not interested in the life and death of the Hu family, but I have to solve the hidden danger. If the cultivators of my Hu clan pledge allegiance to Elder and allow Elder to plant a restrictive spell on them, is it possible for them to live? My Hu clan still has the spirit spring vein. I'm willing to offer it to you with both hands. There are also countless magical treasures and pills that Elder can take for himself. Hu Fengzi gritted his teeth. Given his proud character, he would never allow his Hu clan to become the subordinate of others, but he was even more unwilling to see his descendants die a violent death. Hu Fengzi could see that if Ning Fan really wanted to destroy the Hu clan, he would have killed all the cultivators on the scene the moment he appeared. The reason why he did not make a move was because he had the intention of subduing the Hu clan. Therefore, Hu Fengzi took the initiative to submit to Ning Fan. Ning Fan, on the other hand, looked deeply at Hu Fengzi with admiration in his eyes. You have a good mind, and your personality can be considered steady. You are qualified to be the ancestor of a clan. Don't worry. I just don't want the cultivators of Hu clan to talk too much. Go and gather the cultivators of Hu clan. I'll plant a restrictive spell on them. After that, today's matter will be over. Ning Fan smiled faintly and retracted his spirit sense. As for the cultivators in the Hu clan's territory, they all let out sighs of relief. It wasn't a big deal to Ning Fan whether the Hu clan was exterminated or not. As for the cultivators of Hu clan, they had lost their guards, a few harmonious spirit experts and their old ancestor. Ning Fan no longer put their strength in his eyes. As for the magical treasures and pills of Hu clan, Ning Fan didn't care much about them. Only the spirit spring vein, the cold moon spring, could slightly move Ning Fan. His tone was indifferent, but it gave the cultivators of Hu clan a chance to live. Hu Fengzi's face immediately lit up. Who would be willing to die if they could avoid death? At least they would have a chance to live after being planted with a restrictive spell. Without this person, all the cultivators of Hu clan would have died in the stomach of the Bone Sovereign. Pass down my order. All the cultivators of Hu clan are to gather at the foot of the Cold Moon Mountain. Let Senior Ning plant a restrictive spell on them. As the old ancestor of Hu clan, no one dared to disobey his order. As for the cultivators of Hu clan, after knowing that they were going to be planted with a restrictive spell by Ning Fan and lose their freedom, each of them revealed a worried expression. Ning Fan descended from the Cold Moon Mountain with a flash of an icy rainbow. Not long after, Hu Fengzi led a group of cultivators to the foot of the mountain. Senior, please plant a restrictive spell on us. Hu Fengzi cupped his fists at Ning Fan respectfully, but the death chi on his face was getting stronger. The death chi on his face was getting stronger. The medicinal power of the decaying corpse pill was fading away. Once the time is up, he would die. Ning Fan sighed slightly. He found this Hu Fengzi quite pleasing to the eyes. This man was indeed worthy of being the clan lord for many years. He was willing to die for his clan members. If he could stay in Hu clan, he would be a great help. Unfortunately, the decaying corpse pill was a pill that would lead one to death. In order to gain strength, one had to pay the price of blood. This was the heavenly Tao. Even Ning Fan couldn't save Hu Fengzi. After withdrawing his emotions, Ning Fan planted a restrictive spell on the sea of consciousness of the cultivators of Hu clan. Each and every one of them was planted with a restrictive spell. With a complicated sigh, they went to clean up the ruins of the clan and rebuild their homeland. The void had been completely sealed off. Ning Fan didn't want to stay any longer. Under Hu Fengzi's lead, he came to the land of Hu clan. He shook the cauldron ring and kept the entire spirit spring into the red misty space. This method was unimaginable. Hu Fengzi immediately recognized that Ning Fan's cauldron ring was a legendary heavenly dwelling magical treasure. Spatial magical treasures could store things, but only heavenly dwelling magical treasures could store rivers and mountains. Ning Fan's method was shocking. If he could take care of Hu Clan a little, he wouldn't have any worries after his death. He hesitated for a moment before cupping his fists and begging Ning Fan. "Elder Ning, this old man has a request. I can't remove the toxicity of the decaying corpse pill for you. This pill is used to exchange one's lifespan for cultivation. Obtaining it would mean losing it." Ning Fan's tone was a little helpless because his younger brother, Ning Gu, had also practiced the same vicious cultivation method as the life-sealing ruler. This kind of loss of vitality couldn't be replenished by pills. The heavenly Tao wouldn't tolerate it. Cultivators could push mountains with their fists and fill the sea with their fingers, but they couldn't go against the heavenly Tao. This was the helplessness of cultivators. "No, this old man knows that I'm going to die. I don't want to live. This old man only has one request. After I die, can Elder Ning take care of Hu Clan?" Hu Fengzi pleaded. He knew that Ning Fan planted the mental seal on Hu Clan just to seal their mouths. In fact, Ning Fan had no interest in Hu Clan. If Hu Clan was in trouble, it was hard to say whether he would help or not. However, he still hoped that Ning Fan would help because Hu Clan had lost their guards. If he died, the enemies of Hu Clan wouldn't turn a blind eye to them. Even Purple Light Sect, which had a good relationship with Hu Clan, might turn around and suppress Hu Clan. This was the cruelty of the world of cultivation. Ning Fan slightly frowned at Hu Fengzi's request. But before he could refuse, Hu Fengzi put away all his hesitation, revealed a determined look and pleaded solemnly. "If Elder Ning promises to help Hu Clan 3 times, this old man is willing to give up reincarnation and condense a cultivation pill with my lifetime's cultivation base as a gift to Elder Ning." Initially, this old man wanted to leave this pill for Hu Ming, but it seems like he is still too young to take on such a great responsibility. Cultivation pill. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with surprise. His gaze towards Hu Fengzi was filled with emotions. "You have done too much for the clan. This old man doesn't regret it. Elder Ning, tell me, are you going to agree or not?" "Forget it. If I get the cultivation pill, I, Ning Fan, promise to help Hu Clan 3 times in my lifetime." "Many thanks." Hu Fengzi looked at the busy cultivators from afar and revealed a gratified smile. As for Ning Fan, he felt slightly disappointed and closed his eyes. The cultivation pill was similar to the Dao fruit. After consuming it, it could directly increase a cultivator's cultivation base without any worries. It wasn't like a pill that would make the cultivator's magical power weak after consuming it. The difference was that the Dao fruit was condensed from the magical power of the person who was killed, while the cultivation pill was condensed from the magical power of a living person at the cost of his or her soul. Everyone would die one day, and even if a cultivator died, he or she would still desire to enter reincarnation and cultivate again. However, Hu Fengzi was willing to sacrifice his own soul to concoct a cultivation pill just to ask Ning Fan to help him 3 times. As a patriarch, he was qualified. Tonight, Ning Fan thought about a question for the first time. What was he cultivating and what was the purpose of his cultivation? In the eyes of the cultivation world, Hu Fengzi's method was extremely stupid and worthless. However, Ning Fan felt that if he was Hu Fengzi, he would also choose the same path. The heart devil was getting stronger and stronger. With the cultivation pill that was comparable to the Dao fruit, Ning Fan could go into seclusion to eliminate the heart devil and break through to the gold core realm. The only thing he lacked was time. "Elder Ning, follow me to the cold moon mountain. This old man wants to die there." Hu Fengzi smiled bitterly. "Sure, I will send you to the Dao death." Ning Fan's tone was flat. In an instant, he vaguely felt that his current state of mind was secretly in line with the true meaning of sending the monarch death. Chapter 101. Have you heard about it? The culprit who killed dozens of cultivators has been executed. It seems that the old ancestor of Hu clan took the decaying corpse pill and perished together with the culprit. However, Hu clan suffered a great loss and became a third-rate force in Yu country. Their relationship with Purple Light sect has also been severed. In the dual cultivation palace of Sinister Sparrow sect, a few female disciples were talking about the sensational event in Yu country. It was just a rumor and a fact. Such a rumor was naturally arranged by Ning Fan. 10 days had passed since the Battle of Cold Yu country, but the popularity of this event hadn't decreased. Another thing that shook Sinister Sparrow sect was Wang Yao's disappearance. Wang Yao was a deacon disciple, but he left the sect without permission and didn't return for a long time. Many elders had already regarded him as a traitor. This matter gradually subsided after the old ancestor of Wang clan personally came to apologize. Another matter had replaced it and became the latest topic in Sinister Sparrow sect. Ning Fan went into seclusion. Everyone knew that Ning Fan went into seclusion to fight revered Bai. The former was known as the #1 expert below the Gold Core realm in Yu country, while the latter was an old monster who had been famous for a long time. This battle had attracted a lot of attention even in Yu country. However, it was rare to find someone who believed that Ning Fan would win. Ning Fan had monstrous talent, but he was still too young. Plus, he cultivated dual cultivation, which made his combat strength slightly weaker than his peers. As for revered Bai Feidong, it was said that his profound ice art had already reached the 4th minor realm of the 3rd level. He had even devoured a 3rd-grade cold chi by chance. Bai Feidong's combat strength was unrivaled even among intermediate Gold Core experts. He had even fought with the late Gold Core old monster of Great Void sect, Elder Song Feng, for a few days, but there was no clear winner. This showed how powerful he was. In the dual cultivation palace, the topic of the female disciples gradually shifted to Ning Fan. Bai Lu, who was meditating on the futon at the side, knitted her brows from time to time, as if she would feel irritated just by hearing Ning Fan's name. When he sensed that a woman had arrived at the dual cultivation palace, he immediately withdrew his frustration and calmed down. She got up and gently brushed the dust off her thin gauze gown. Then, she led the female disciples to the dual cultivation palace to welcome Ning Fan. Ever since Ning Fan went into seclusion, a blue-robed lady would come to visit him every day. She would always stand outside Ning Fan's stone chamber for a long time. Young Master Lan Mei. Even Bai Lu didn't dare to slight her. Greetings, young master. Bai Lu bowed gracefully with an unnatural smile. Is he still in seclusion today? Lan Mei's tone was cold, with a trace of dignity of a superior. Yes. Bai Lu seemed reluctant to talk about Ning Fan. Bai Lu, come with me. I have something to ask you. Lan Mei's eyes flickered. Her tone left no room for refusal. As for Bai Lu, she lowered her head slightly and followed Lan Mei into Ning Fan's courtyard. However, the moment they entered the room, Lan Mei could no longer pretend to be cold and arrogant. Instead, she burst out laughing. After her body was healed, Lan Mei was in a good mood, and she smiled more. Sister Bai, there's no one here. You don't have to be so restrained. Today, teach me some more. Are you done yet? I don't want to teach you anymore. Bai Lu no longer pretended to be respectful and said with dissatisfaction. Please teach me, you and Ning Fan have done it so many times. Lan Mei showed a rare trace of pleading. I have nothing to do with him. If you say that again, I won't teach you anymore. Alright, alright, alright. I won't say any more, then sister, quickly teach me. Lan Mei's tone was as if she was talking to her teacher. It was because she liked to learn all kinds of techniques to please Ning Fan from Bai Lu. Now that she was a woman and would be Ning Fan's wife in the future, there were some things that she had to learn properly. She didn't have a mother to teach her, so she came to seek help from the #1 demoness of Dual Cultivation Palace, Bai Lu. Bai Lu knew a lot of Yin Huan technique and bed technique, and this woman seemed to be an outsider just like Ning Fan. No matter what, Lan Mei was the young master. Bai Lu didn't dare to offend her, so she could only teach her everything she knew. No one knew that the Heaven's Pride of Sinister Sparrow Sect, Lan Mei, and the #1 demoness of Sinister Sparrow Sect, Bai Lu, were talking about erotic secret techniques in Ning Fan's room. Ning Fan had no idea what was happening in the outside world. This seclusion only lasted for half a year. It was a long time for mortals, but it was too short for cultivators. It was so short that it wasn't enough for them to do too many things. Sweeping away all the distracting thoughts, Ning Fan only had one thought in his mind in the quiet and dim stone chamber. Improve my strength. After the battle with Wang Yao, Ning Fan realized his own shortcomings. He had more offense but insufficient defense. In terms of fighting experience, he was far superior to his peers, but compared to the real old monsters, his experience was not just a little bit inferior. Gradually, the flaws of his cultivation technique began to show. In the battle with Wang Yao, he was only relying on his trump cards to hold on, while Wang Yao casually cast magical techniques that were extremely powerful. Casting magical techniques didn't only require magical power, but also the corresponding cultivation technique. Although Ning Fan had cultivated the snow treading art to the 2nd level, he didn't comprehend it in detail. He only learned the ice rainbow escape art and didn't cultivate any other ice element magical techniques. As for the black demon art, he didn't cultivate it at all. He had devoured the black demon flame by chance, but he hadn't used it for a long time because he didn't know any magical techniques, so he couldn't unleash the true power of the black demon flame. If Ning Fan didn't have any trump cards, he would only have 2 Sword Chi, Fire Transformation Sword, and White Bones Mountain. Moreover, he had only comprehended the 2 Sword Chi, and it was still far from being able to unleash its true power. The silver light that shone through his body was stronger than any peak harmonious spirit body cultivator, but Ning Fan hadn't even cultivated a single body refining technique. The divine ability that law cultivators cultivated was called magical technique. Body cultivators cultivated body refining techniques. Strictly speaking, the giant avatar that Wang Yao displayed that day was a type of body refining technique. Among the divine abilities of the ancient fiend gods, there were many body refining techniques that were far more powerful than magical techniques. Whether it was magical technique or body refining technique, Ning Fan hadn't learned any of them. In the memory of ancient chaos, dual cultivation of body and law, reaching the realm of unity of body and dharma, was the cultivation path of the ancient fiend gods. Bone Sovereign had achieved it, but Ning Fan hadn't succeeded in cultivating either. As for the Separation Slayer, it had the soul-burning divine ability attached to it, but its grade was still pitifully low. No, it should be said that the Separation Slayer had advanced from low grade to high grade in just half a year was already very shocking. Unfortunately, Ning Fan's cultivation advanced even faster, to the point where a low-grade high-grade magical treasure was useless in battle. The Separation Slayer must be refined again. If the rib bone of Bone Sovereign was fused into it, it would certainly increase the power of the Separation Slayer, or even gain some other powerful divine abilities. Thus, the purpose of this seclusion was very clear. First, he must cultivate the black demon art and snow treading art to the peak of the 2nd level, and master several kinds of ice and fire magical techniques. Secondly, he must cultivate a defensive body refining technique to unleash the full power of the silver light through his body refining realm. Lastly, he must refine the Separation Slayer and fuse it into the rib bone of Bone Sovereign. Apart from that, there were 2 other magical techniques that Ning Fan had to cultivate. False thought art and defensive thought art. There were 3 styles in the divine thought art. The first style was concealment, the second style was defense, and the third style was clone. The first style, false thought art, required the consumption of spirit refining grass. Currently, Ning Fan had obtained a lot of spirit refining grass from Meng Chu. The second style, defensive thought art, required the consumption of the magical treasure's spirit. Ning Fan also had a few spirit magical treasures. There were too many things that needed to be done. Half a year was too short. However, Ning Fan firmly believed that if he went into seclusion for half a year, he would be able to make up for all his weaknesses and become a true expert. Whether it was the cultivation method or the improvement of magical powers, in fact, they were all preparations for breaking through to the Golden Core stage. Even with the inheritance of ancient chaos, the success rate of Ning Fan breaking through to the Gold Core realm was still not high. According to his estimation, he would need at least 10 years of seclusion to have a chance to break through the bottleneck of the Gold Core realm. But if he failed, 10 years of hard work would be wasted in a day. Cultivators with slightly inferior aptitude only had a 10% success rate in breaking through the bottleneck. Those genius cultivators had less than 20% success rate in forming their core. Every Gold Core cultivator had to break through the bottleneck several times before they succeeded. Those who succeeded the first time were all people with heaven-defying luck. Ning Fan was estimating his success rate in his mind. His aptitude wasn't the best, but he wasn't stupid either. He had at least a 20% success rate. If I pluck Bing Ling and Yu Ling to benefit myself at the expense of others, my success rate could reach 30%. Ning Fan's eyes were complicated. He looked at the cauldron ring on his left wrist. For the first time, he hesitated whether to pluck the two girls. But in the end, he didn't have the heart to do it. He couldn't do it to those who had helped him before. After a sigh, he patted the top of his head. The half-step nascent soul sense incarnation was separated from his body. This incarnation had a half-step nascent soul cultivation base, but it was extremely unstable. It couldn't exert much combat power, but it could still be used for sneak attacks and killing blows. Because of condensing this incarnation, half of Ning Fan's divine soul had been lost. This result would lower the success rate of core formation. However, the improvement of spirit sense would increase the success rate. Because I severed my own soul, the success rate of forming my gold core will be 5% lower than ordinary people. But the strength of my spirit sense can also help me resist the heart devil. Therefore, the success rate of forming my gold core will increase instead of decreasing. After that, Ning Fan patted his storage pouch and took out a blood-red pill. It was the size of a fingernail, but it contained vast magical power. If one listened carefully, one could hear the sound of a heartbeat coming from the pill. Ning Fan's expression showed a hint of disappointment when he saw the pill. This was the cultivation pill that the old ancestor of Hu clan condensed at the cost of his soul. He was going to give this pill to Hu Ming, but Ning Fan's appearance changed the old ancestor's mind. This cultivation pill is condensed by the early gold core magical power of the old ancestor after he consumed the decaying corpse pill. Its medicinal effect is slightly inferior to the Dao fruit of an early gold core cultivator, but it's not far from it. After consuming this cultivation pill, my success rate of core formation will reach 60%. Finally, he took out an ancient pill scroll that was given to him by Xue Qing. A type of third revolution pill was recorded on the pill scroll, and it was called Golden Sunglow Pill. The effect of this pill could increase the success rate of core formation by 10%. He couldn't increase it, but who could guarantee that if he failed to reach core formation, he wouldn't lose that 10% chance of success? Moreover, even if the core formation failed, it could still accumulate magical power to lay the foundation for the next breakthrough. It could also shorten the time needed to break through the bottleneck of the gold core realm. With the addition of this pill, Ning Fan had a 70% success rate of core formation. If this success rate was spread out, every gold core old monster would be dumbfounded. After all, there had never been a cultivator who had such a high success rate. Compared to pursuing the success rate of core formation, those old monsters were more willing to exchange their limited resources for pills that could increase their cultivation base after core formation. They weren't short of time and weren't afraid of failure, but Ning Fan lacked time the most. Core formation was a waste of time. If he failed again, Ning Fan didn't dare to think about the consequences. He didn't dare to imagine the helplessness he would feel when he faced Moksha Emperor 100 years later. 70% success rate isn't low, but I want a higher success rate. If I dual cultivate body and law, the success rate will be increased by 5%. If I can cultivate the black demon art and snow treading art to the third realm, the success rate of core formation will increase by another 10%. 85% is the limit that I can reach. If I still fail to form my core, then everything will be the will of heaven. Ning Fan smiled helplessly. The will of the heaven. Who could go against the will of the heaven? The old monster was teased by the will of the heaven, turning from a true immortal to a harmonious spirit and a cripple without any cultivation base. No matter how strong a cultivator was, he wouldn't have a good ending if he angered the will of the heaven. Going against the will of the heaven was too difficult. If it was possible, Ning Fan wouldn't choose the path of going against the will of the heaven. It was too difficult, painful and lonely. But if he still failed with an 85% success rate, he would have to form the core even if he had to go against the will of the heaven. Start the seclusion. First, I need to comprehend 2 cultivation laws. The more people there are, the better. The third art of the divine art of thought could be used here. Body art of thought, clone art. Ning Fan's fingers formed an incantation gesture. Immediately, illusory clones emerged from his body. They looked exactly the same as the original body, except that they had no cultivation base. These clones belonged to the category of fake clones, completely different from incarnations. Using them in battle would be suicide, but if they were used to comprehend, in an instant, Ning Fan had created more than 100 clones. This was the limit of his half-step nascent soul spirit sense. He immediately gave the first order to the clones. All of you can live for 3 days. Within these 3 days, I want all of you to comprehend the black demon art and snow treading art together. Yes. More than 100 clones answered in unison. 100 people comprehending cultivation laws at the same time was 100 times faster than an ordinary person. Although this would put a huge burden on his spirit sense, Ning Fan was confident that he could endure the pain. It wouldn't be difficult to comprehend the 2 cultivation laws to the peak of the 2nd level in half a year. The first transformation was when Ning Fan obtained the immortal emperor's inheritance. He transformed from a mortal into a cultivator. The second transformation was when Ning Fan completely assimilated into the identity of a cultivator and became a true expert. While Ning Fan was in seclusion, 7 Apricot City was also quietly changing. In the city lord's room, Ji He and Si Wuxia were sleeping in their clothes. It seemed like they had a long conversation last night. The innocent Ji He and the amnesiac Si Wuxia seemed to be very compatible. The morning light shone through the window. Ji He lazily turned over and continued to sleep. As for Si Wuxia, her body suddenly trembled as if she was electrocuted. Immediately, her beautiful eyes opened as if she had just woken up. It wasn't that she had woken up, but the memory that was sleeping in her body had burst out. Ning Fan. I remember now. Si Wuxia revealed a resentful expression, but immediately, she felt a pain in her head and fainted. After a long time, Si Wuxia once again opened her eyes, but this time, her innocent expression was restored. Strange. I had a very strange dream just now. Cece, what happened to you? Ji He rubbed her eyes and asked with a yawn. Nothing. I just had a dream. I dreamt that I became another me. So strange. Si Wuxia was puzzled. You are thinking too much. Oh right, I am about to break through to the harmonious spirit realm. Later, I will go to Commander Nangong to get some dawn and then go into seclusion. Can you protect me? Ji He pleaded. Hearing that Ji He was about to break through to the harmonious spirit realm, Si Wuxia was so surprised that she couldn't close her mouth, making her look quite cute. You have never seriously cultivated for a day, yet you are about to break through to the harmonious spirit realm. Although she lost her memories, she vaguely remembered that breaking through to the harmonious spirit realm was extremely difficult. Could it be that the silly Jiha actually had such a talent for cultivation? No wonder Master doted on her so much. Chapter 102. With the body thought art, Ning Fan's comprehension speed was 100 times faster than ordinary people, but the fatigue he had to endure was also 100 times more. Generally speaking, in the cultivation world, each level is divided into 9 small realms. Ordinary people would need several years to increase their cultivation by one minor realm, but Ning Fan's 100 clones allowed his cultivation realm to rapidly increase. In just a month, he had cultivated the black demon art to the first layer, then broke through the first layer and reached the second layer. At this moment, the fire element of the black demon art was balanced with the ice element of the snow treading art, secretly conforming to the principle of yin and yang. However, Ning Fan didn't feel relaxed because he still needed to comprehend the 2 cultivation laws to the peak of the second level. In other words, he needed to break through to the 9th realm of the second level. In the second level, every increase in realm would increase the power of the magical technique by at least 10%. In total, the magical technique of a harmonious spirit cultivator at the peak would be more than twice as powerful as a cultivator of the same level. In order to cultivate the cultivation laws, Ning Fan put in a lot of effort. To comprehend the fire element cultivation laws, he took out the black demon flame and white bone flame for his clones to study. To comprehend the ice element cultivation laws, he took out the bone prison chi for his clones to study. Heavenly frost cold chi and earth vein demonic flame were hard to obtain for ordinary people, but Ning Fan already had 3 of them. Like this, the second month passed. Ning Fan's cultivation laws successfully broke through to the 6th realm of the second level and officially reached the peak of the second level. After 3 months of seclusion, Ning Fan's magical power didn't increase, but his aura became more imposing, making people breathless. He withdrew all of his clones and pointed a finger, shooting out a black fire dragon. This black demon flame was one of the 9 dragon flames of the black demon flame. When Ning Fan first cultivated it, it was enough to injure an early harmonious spirit Yuchi. But now, with his peak harmonious spirit magical power and the peak of the second level, this fire dragon was enough to kill a peak harmonious spirit cultivator even without any magical technique. Ning Fan's eyes flickered, then he pointed his finger and cast the first fire element magical technique of the black demon art. Dragon Vortex. Inside the stone chamber, the black demonic fire suddenly spread out like a black ocean. It swept towards a huge rock that was 100 feet tall in the stone chamber. That rock was a sword-testing rock. It was usually placed in a stone chamber for cultivators to use their magical techniques to attack. There was no other use for this stone. It was extremely hard, but its weakness was that it lacked flexibility and ductility, so it could not be used to forge magic treasures. This stone was precious and hard to come by. Lan Mei had begged for this piece from her father. However, after the flames engulfed the boulder, it didn't seem to be damaged at all. It was evident how hard it was. In terms of defense, this stone seemed to be even stronger than peak harmonious spirit experts. However, Ning Fan changed his incantation gesture. Immediately, the black devil flames turned into a fiery whirlpool, revolving around the gigantic boulder violently. As it spun, the faint roar of a dragon came from the center of the vortex. Immediately, the power of the flames doubled. Dragon Vortex, first rotation. After the first revolution, even a false core cultivator would be incinerated. As for the giant rock, it emitted sizzling sounds. Although it wasn't damaged, its surface was melting at an undetectable speed. Second rotation. At this critical moment, Ning Fan reluctantly performed the incantation gesture, forcibly causing the fiery whirlpool to spin once more. After the second revolution, the whirlpool became even more violent and the power of the heart flame doubled again. It could even severely injure an early gold core cultivator. Under the power of the flame, tiny rock chips began to peel off from the sword-testing rock. Although it wasn't much, it was enough to prove that the magical technique had successfully injured the giant rock. After withdrawing the dragon vortex, Ning Fan heaved a sigh of relief. His eyes were burning with passion. Dragon vortex. This technique had a total of 9 revolutions. Every time one of the revolutions was completed, the power of the magical technique would double. The second revolution could injure an early gold core cultivator. The third revolution could injure by fading. If he could successfully condense a fire dragon in the third revolution, he could even injure a late gold core cultivator. If I can cultivate this technique to the third revolution and condense a fire dragon, I won't need to use every move as my trump card when fighting gold core cultivators in the future. I only need to use ordinary magical techniques, and I don't need to hurt myself first before hurting others in every battle. Ning Fan smiled faintly, but immediately, he seemed to have thought of something. His expression turned cold. He raised his finger, channeled the cold magical power, and pointed at the giant rock. This cold magical power didn't have the support of the heavenly frost cold chi, so its power wasn't that great. However, when the cold chi enveloped the sword-testing rock, the scorching hot rock suddenly encountered extreme coldness and began to crumble immediately. The core of the rock didn't crumble, but an inch of the rock chips began to peel off crazily. When the fire reaches the extreme, use ice. Ning Fan's heart skipped a beat. This was a principle that every tool refinement master would understand. When refining magical treasures, the most taboo was the rapid exchange of heat and cold, as it would easily cause the incomplete magical treasure to break. Ning Fan realized that this principle could also be used in a battle. Imagine, if he encountered an enemy with a defense like a tortoise and a body as hard as a rock, he would first attack with the dragon vortex fire and then use a tyrannical ice magical technique. No matter how strong the tortoise shell was, it would still be shattered. There were only 3 types of ice magical techniques recorded in the snow treading art. The first type was the ice light escape art, which Ning Fan was already used to. The second type was the ice armor body, which could increase the magical defense. This magical technique was rare, so Ning Fan would naturally learn it. The third type was the 10-li blizzard, which could turn a 10-li area into a snowy world. This technique was extremely mysterious because it could change the weather. Perhaps the reason why ancient chaos remembered the snow treading art was because of this technique. Once the 10-li area was turned into a snowy battlefield, his ice magical power would be inexhaustible within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, and he could obtain as much as he wanted from the snowy world. This technique was heaven-defying. And it was difficult to practice it. But the most important thing was, none of the 3 styles of the snow treading art were ice magical techniques. They seemed to be auxiliary magical techniques. Without a high-grade ice magical technique, Ning Fan could only settle for a low-grade ice technique, the ice rain technique. The ice rain technique was a spirit-level magical technique. Its effect was to turn magical power into ice rain that was as sharp as thorns, suitable for dealing with groups of enemies. 100 drops of ice rain could be considered as minor achievement, 1,000 ice rain could be considered as major achievement, 9,000 ice rain could be considered as perfect, and beyond 9,000 ice rain could be considered as limitless. This technique was considered as an extremely common magical technique in the cultivation world. But on second thought, Ning Fan felt that it would be better to use an ordinary ice magical technique to freeze the enemy who was burned by the fire magical technique. After being burned by the tyrannical dragon vortex, what would be the enemy's first thought when they saw Ning Fan using an ordinary ice attack? It would be that Ning Fan's magical power was depleted and he couldn't cast a stronger ice technique. It would be that this technique wasn't a concern, it would be carelessness and lack of preparation. To make the enemy careless was far more important than the level of the magical technique itself. There was an old saying in the cultivation world, those who are good at swimming will drown, and those who hold an umbrella will get wet. Sometimes, using a high-grade magical technique to attack and attract the enemy's attention was far inferior to using a low-grade magical technique to trick the enemy and injure them. Many experts who were cautious all their lives often died not in the hands of experts, but due to carelessness. After the dragon vortex, it would be the ice rain. This ice rain would probably kill a lot of people. In this case, I will diligently cultivate my magical techniques in the following days. I must cultivate the dragon vortex technique and the ice rain technique to a higher realm. A month later, Ning Fan suddenly stood up. His left eye was cold while his right eye was blazing hot. He pointed his right finger and the black fire burned the sword testing stone like a vortex. First revolution. The stone body slightly trembled. Second revolution. Stone chips began to peel off from the stone body. Third revolution. The stone body shook violently and faintly began to crack. A black fire dragon leaped out from the vortex and fiercely bit the sword testing stone. The power of the fire increased. Instantly, the sword testing stone cracked like clouds. However, this wasn't the end. Ning Fan's hand seals suddenly changed and the dragon fire disappeared. What followed was 1,000 ice rain in the stone chamber. 1,000 ice rain turned into 1,000 ice thorns and fell down. Its power was enough to injure an intermediate harmonious spirit cultivator, but it didn't seem to be worth mentioning to a gold core expert. But when the ice rain hit the sword testing stone instantly let out a thunderous boom and shattered into pieces. The sword testing stone that was strong enough to withstand a peak gold core attack was shattered just like that. The tremor spread from the stone chamber of Dual Cultivation Palace, turning into a strong earthquake that swept across the entire Dark Sparrow Valley. The experts of the sect were shocked and left their houses. When they knew that it wasn't an invasion, they heaved a sigh of relief and looked towards the direction of Dual Cultivation Palace. They were shocked to find that the tremor was caused by Ning Fan, who was in seclusion in Dual Cultivation Palace. What kind of magical technique is Elder Ning studying in the stone chamber? How could it be so powerful? In the White Palace, Bai Feidong, who was condensing cold qi, suddenly stood up and stared at the Dual Cultivation Palace in disbelief. The others didn't know what the rumbling sound was, but he knew. Impossible. Ning Fan has only been in seclusion for 4 months and he has already shattered the sword testing stone. Bai Feidong's face was filled with unwillingness. Chapter 103. In the 4th month, magical techniques soared in the stone chamber, and in the end, the sword testing stone was broken. In the 5th month, the sword qi scattered in all directions, accompanied by blazing fire qi and white bone sword shadows. In the 6th month, the stone chamber was quiet. Occasionally, there would be the sound of footsteps and the cry of a spirit. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. The stone chamber gradually quieted down, only the occasional sound of burning earth fire could be heard. Vaguely, there were signs of the emergence of a divine weapon. Ning Fan had learned a few magical techniques. His two-sword qi became more proficient and his comprehension became deeper. As for his body refining technique, he had mastered the Zhang 6-meter body. What made Ning Fan happy was the minor completion of the false thought art and defensive thought art. Inside the stone chamber, Ning Fan put one hand behind his back and flicked his other finger. Immediately, a sword light shot out from his finger and turned into fire. He stomped on the ground, causing the stone chamber to tremble. Countless white bone shadows appeared on the ground, and a faintly discernible bloodline was condensed by his murderous aura and drifted among the shadows. After retrieving the two-sword qi, Ning Fan smiled. He had finally comprehended the minor completion of the two-sword qi. Now, he didn't need to use his sword, he could activate the sword qi with just a stomp of his finger. He collected his thoughts, closed his eyes, and pointed at the space between his eyebrows. Immediately, silver light appeared around his body, and within the silver light, he grew to a height of 6 feet. His muscles were sturdy, and his strength was astonishing. His physique changed greatly, and he was no longer thin and weak. This technique was a body-refining technique that he cultivated. Compared to Moksha Emperor and Bone Emperor who could transform into a 10,000-meter-tall giant, the 6-meter height seemed insignificant. However, this was Ning Fan's first time cultivating a body-refining technique, which was already very rare. Moreover, after transforming into a 6-meter-tall body, Ning Fan's physical defense doubled and his strength increased by 30%. With the strength of his physical body, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill a harmonious spirit with a single punch. This body-refining technique meant that even if Ning Fan's magical power was depleted in the future, he would still be able to fight. After all, the body-refining technique consumed the power of blood and qi, not the magical power. After retrieving the 6-meter image, Ning Fan heaved a sigh of relief. After resting for a moment, his eyes suddenly focused and his appearance began to change rapidly. Meng Chu, Xue Qing, Zhou Ming, Nanyang Zi, Yuqi, Sinister Sparrow. All the people whom Ning Fan had met before and whose cultivation base was lower than his spirit sense realm appeared one after another. It wasn't that the appearance was fake, even the aura was exactly the same. False thought formula. This technique allowed him to change his body shape and conceal himself. Unless his spirit sense was higher than Ning Fan's, no one would be able to see through his disguise. Ning Fan's spirit sense had reached the half-step nascent soul realm. This meant that no one in Yu country would be able to see through his concealment. He changed back to his original appearance, dispelled the pseudo-thought mantra, and closed his eyes. A faintly discernible aura gradually rose within his body. All of a sudden, he patted his storage pouch and took out a mid-grade flying sword. He flicked his finger and the flying sword suddenly changed direction after flying for 3 zhang. It turned around and stabbed towards Ning Fan's chest. A middle-grade flying sword. Unless Ning Fan activated the Zhang 16 physique, he would definitely die if the sword pierced through his chest. However, the strange thing was that when the mid-grade flying sword and dagger were 3 feet away from Ning Fan, they suddenly hit an invisible barrier and couldn't get any closer. The void in front of Ning Fan was reverberating with ripples like waves, revealing the aura of spirit sense. If any cultivator saw this, they would definitely be shocked because this method of defending against the flying sword was actually completed with spirit sense. Defensive thought formula. Ning Fan kept the flying sword and revealed a carefree smile. The biggest gain from this seclusion was definitely the cultivation of the spirit sense formula. Before cultivating, Ning Fan had never thought that the spirit sense formula would be so mysterious that it was far beyond his expectation. In terms of profundity, it might not be weaker than the yin-yang transformation. After swallowing the spirit-refining grass, only nascent soul realm cultivators would be able to see through his concealment and disguise. After shattering 5 magical treasure spirits, the spirit sense formula would be able to withstand the killing blow of a nascent soul realm cultivator. Of course, Ning Fan's cultivation of these 2 techniques wasn't perfect. If the spirit sense formula was cultivated to grand completion, it could even conceal itself from spirit sense, which was far beyond one's own detection. As for the spirit sense formula, Ning Fan's limit was to use it once a day. Using it a second time would cause great damage to spirit sense, and using it a third time would definitely shatter his sea of consciousness. If he wanted to cultivate the spirit sense formula to a higher realm, he would need more spirit refining grass and magical treasure spirits. Spirit sense formula was still manageable as there were traces of it in the Rain Immortal world, but spirit refining grass. Ning Fan couldn't imagine whether there would be a weirdo like Meng Chu who could grow spirit refining grass by accident in the Rain Immortal world. Half a year of seclusion seemed to be very successful. Ning Fan's magical power didn't increase, but his abilities had gained a few more tricks. There seemed to be only one thing left, which was to refine the separation slayer. Ning Fan walked to the front of the smelting cauldron and drew out the earth fire. He opened his mouth and spat out the starlight sword shadow, which turned into a sparkling and translucent flying sword. He held it in his hand and looked at it carefully, as if he had made a decision. After a long time, he shook the cauldron ring and took out a section of jade-like rib. Changing the sword bone wouldn't change the essence of the flying sword, but in order to avoid triggering the phenomenon of stars in daytime, Ning Fan still spent some immortal jades to set up a pill-grade grand formation in front of the smelting cauldron to conceal the chi of treasure refining. The current him was no longer a nestling cultivator. Thinking back to what he did in 7 Apricot City in the past, he knew that it was extremely dangerous. Even though he had obtained the memory of the immortal emperors, he was still a teenager. His life experience was merely copied from the ancient chaos era, and he didn't have his own feelings. Today, the battles that he had gone through made him realize the truth of the cultivation world. It wasn't as ugly as he had imagined, and it wasn't like the mythical paradise, but a complicated place. There were emotions, love, conspiracy and hatred in the cultivation world. It was no different from the world of mortals. If he was careless and died from a sneak attack, it would be too unjust, so he had to be cautious. There was an old saying in the cultivation world, you never know what kind of enemy is lurking in the dark, spying on you. Ning Fan's sword sense could kill any expert below early gold core realm, but Bone Sovereign's extreme realm divine intent seemed to be stronger than Ning Fan's. Ning Fan had the inheritance of the ancient chaos era, but the little demoness of the godly void pavilion had the nobler inheritance of the godly void pavilion. Above the 4 heavens, there were countless inheritances of immortal emperors and fiend gods. There would always be someone better than you in the universe. Ning Fan knew this very clearly from his own experience. So, he had to be cautious. Only by being cautious could he survive in this chaotic world. His mind was spinning, and his state of mind was vaguely improved. He sighed slightly and put away his expression, then he put the separation slayer into the smelting cauldron. The treasure refining technique in the ancient chaos era's memory is called the 1000 refining technique. It's called the 100 refining technique, the 1000 refining technique, the 1000 refining technique, and the 10,000 refining technique. In order to refine a magical treasure, one has to refine at least 1,000 times. In order to give birth to a treasure spirit, one has to refine at least 10,000 times. But in fact, it doesn't mean that a magical treasure must have a treasure spirit. There's nothing absolute in this world. It's better if a flying sword has a spirit, but it's best if it's a heavy sword without a spirit. Ning Fan murmured to himself. Most of the swords worn by cultivators were flying swords. They were used to perform hand seals to fly and slash the enemy. But in ancient times, the fiend gods used their strength to break the heavens. They had to transform themselves into 10,000 zhanglong and engage in a hand-to-hand combat. The sword used to slash the enemy was called the heavy sword. The flying sword emphasized on being light and ethereal, while the heavy sword emphasized on being able to wipe out 1,000 enemies. If the flying sword had a spirit, it would be more accurate and easier for the cultivator to control it with his spirit sense. But if the heavy sword had a spirit, it would be hard to unite with the sword. When facing the enemy, it would be hard to ensure that the sword chi wouldn't be rusty. The separation slayer didn't need a sword spirit because Ning Fan had decided to refine it into a heavy sword. However, this didn't mean that he had to destroy the flying sword form of the separation slayer. The treasure refining technique of the ancient chaos era, the 1000 refining technique, was nothing special, but it had a shocking profundity. If the flying sword reached 100,000 refinements, it would be able to forge a magical treasure with 2 forms. In other words, Ning Fan could switch the separation slayer between a flying sword and a heavy sword with a single thought. This might be shocking in your country, but it wasn't surprising in the Rain Immortal world. True magical treasures did not focus solely on power. Instead, they focused more on change. It was said that the lost Heavenly Dipper 36 transformations and Earthly Fiend's 72 transformations were extremely profound transformation techniques. Putting away all the distracting thoughts, Ning Fan began to control the earth fire to separate the bone of the separation slayer. At the same time, he used his spirit sense to control the fire to calcinate the rib of Bone Sovereign. The rib of Bone Sovereign was the bone of a void fragmentation old monster. It had a trace of spirituality and pride, unwilling to become a material for a magical treasure. Therefore, it didn't melt in the earth fire. It was this trace of spirituality that allowed Bone Sovereign to use the bone-searching technique to locate the location of the rib and confirm Ning Fan's identity. The spirituality couldn't be extracted, but it could be erased. Ning Fan's eyes glinted with cold light. His sword sense swept across and went into the rib bone. With a fierce scrape, the spirituality of the rib bone was completely scraped away. A trace of white qi was evaporated in the flame and dissipated. In this way, no matter how heaven-defying Bone Sovereign was, he wouldn't be able to locate the rib. The rib was calcinated in the fire for 3 days and finally melted into a jade-like bone liquid. Ning Fan didn't wait any longer and immediately used his spirit sense to control the fire to force out the separation slayer. After the sword bone was extracted, the grade of separation slayer almost dropped. Almost immediately, Ning Fan guided the bone liquid and fused it into the body of the sword. The separation slayer that was as light as water and dazzling with starlight suddenly began to transform. The 3 feet of starlight became 7 feet long and the blade was 1 foot wide. The body of the sword was like a white bone, white and lusterless. It emitted a heavy and oppressive killing intent, sharp and domineering. This was a heavy sword, a giant white bone sword. Its grade had reached the peak of intermediate grade. It had advanced by more than 1 realm. Separation Slayer, the form of a heavy sword, refined. But it wasn't over yet. When the body of the sword was condensed, Ning Fan flicked his sleeve and swept away the water in the sword pond. He then patted his storage pouch and took out the thunder water that he had exchanged in the Merit Palace. This water was the cold condensing spring water used to refine immemorial divine weapons. Its effect was to add a trace of thunder power to the immemorial divine weapons. The only pity was that this thunder water was too rare. When the ancient gods and devils refined divine weapons, there would usually be a pool of thunder water. But now, Ning Fan only had a bottle of cold condensing magical treasure. It wasn't enough, so he had to dilute it and make do with it. He shook the cauldron ring and added the cold moon spring water from Hu Clan into the sword pond and mixed it with the thunder water. The cold moon spring water was actually a famous cold condensing spring water, but it was too ordinary compared to the thunder water. The cold condensing spring water was already present. The last step was to condense the sword body. He patted the furnace and extinguished the fire. Ning Fan used his spirit sense and the separation slayer was immediately drawn into the sword pond. Inside the pond, there was a sizzling sound of steam. As the thunder water evaporated, traces of thunder light separated from the water and went into the giant sword. On the body of the sword, obscure thunder lines were drawn. The sword was formed. Ning Fan waved his hand and the giant sword fell into his hand. Suddenly, his wrist sank and the sword tip fell to the ground, sinking 3 feet into the ground. So heavy. This weight was at least 5,000 jin. Not to mention the power of the thunder, the power of a gold core cultivator would be extremely horrifying. A careless mistake could even kill a gold core cultivator. Ha! With a cold shout, silver light shone from his body. Ning Fan's strength rose sharply. He pulled out the giant sword from the ground and fiercely stabbed it into the ground. After a loud bang, the ground was shaved off by 1 zhang. The cut was as smooth as a mirror. One should know that the rock on the ground was enough to defend against an early gold core cultivator's all-out attack. A heavy sword without a sharp edge, great craftsmanship is useless. When the heavy sword produces a sharp edge, there is no competition between heaven and earth. In this way, my seclusion has come to an end. Time really flies. This is the life of a cultivator. Ning Fan moved his mind. The giant sword turned back into the starlight flying sword and was kept into his body. He then sat cross-legged and adjusted the magical power in his body. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.